Alright, meat shields, so imagine a world where the government allows any crime you can think of for a whole 12 hours every year. You can't run and you can't hide, so all you can do is post up at the cribbo and wait for it to pass. But what if a bunch of freaks with machetes pulled up and decided to ruin your night? Do you think you would survive? Well, we're here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the psychos in every single Purge movie thus far. America is about to be thrown into absolute chaos. It's March 21st, the day of the annual Purge, a single night each year where all crime is legal across the United States, including murder. Now, just over an hour before the Purge begins, home security salesman James Sandin arrives home. Greeting his wife Mary in the kitchen, he comments that people seem more anxious about the Purge this year than before. She explains that their daughter, Zoe, has been moody the entire day because of her boyfriend Henry, and asks James to do something about it. But he insists that there's nothing he can do and says the girl's too young for a boyfriend anyway. He tells Mary that he has an important announcement to share over dinner. And after he leaves, Mary watches a TV interview of this scientist explaining the point of the Purge. Basically, the night lets regular people get all the violent energy out that they've been holding back, which helps things stay very chill for the rest of the year. Upstairs in her room, Zoe makes out with Henry, but then hears Pops coming their way, so she kisses him goodbye and makes Henry skedaddle by climbing down her balcony. As he goes, they both notice a next-door neighbor sharpening a machete, but since it's Purge night, it's not even weird. While placing the flowers outside, Mary gets approached by her neighbor Grace, who offers her some homemade cookies, and as they talk, some other neighbors pass by in their car and wish them luck for the coming night. Mary asks if Grace is having her annual Purge party, but Grace says that she's not doing it this year and starts admiring the additions to Mary's crib, and mentions that the Sandins had a pretty good year compared to the other neighbors in the community. James sold a new security system to nearly every house in their neighborhood, which Grace says probably paid for the updates to their house. But when Mary tries to question who's spreading those rumors, Grace blows it off and just calls it simple gossip. Preparing dinner in the kitchen, Mary gets startled by her son Charlie's creepy remote control camera toy. She tells him to stop messing around and come downstairs, so Charlie climbs out of a secret hiding spot in his closet and does what she says. He shows her the upgrades he's made to his toy, mentioning that it now has night vision goggles and an insulated motor to make it super quiet when moving. Mary senses that Charlie is a little nervous about the Purge, but she reminds him that it's for the greater good. That night, James asks his kids about their day, but they completely ignore him while Charlie records his heart rate, noting down a slight difference. Trying again, James asks Zoe about her day, and she talks about her calculus test and piano practice, but that's when James reveals his good news. He's the #1 salesman in his company's division, with the most upgraded security systems for tonight's Purge, so he's getting a huge paycheck bonus for his dedication. The family then congratulates him on the achievement, and James asks his son about his day. He talks about learning the history of the Purge in school, and Zoe interrupts to make a crude joke, but that's when Charlie points out that it's nearly lockdown time. The family moves into the security control room of the house, and James takes a look at the security cameras to see what his neighbors are getting up to. 2 male neighbors are walking through the streets in military-grade gear, while Grace is welcoming in friends for a Purge party. I thought she wasn't having one of those. But James opens up a sealed door, revealing a small set of weapons just in case someone tries to raid their crib, and he arms himself with a blicky, not realizing that this is going to save their lives. He asks the family if they're ready, officially locking down his house, closing all their windows, and getting ready for any potential chaos. Charlie turns on the official announcement where the political party for the new founding fathers inform America that the Purge has officially begun. Class 4 weapons and lower are authorized for use, and rank 10 government officials are immune from violence. But all crimes, including murder, will be legal for 12 hours, and no one's coming to save them until 7 a.m. the next morning. Alright, it's the most murderous time of the year, so James got his family all snuggled in for the lockdown. Great! Well, maybe not quite that great, because the real question of this whole ordeal is why stay in America? The family is loaded, they live in a gated community, and just built a massive expansion on their already large home. So if anyone had the cash to leave, it would be them, right? And there don't seem to be any rules against leaving the country around the Purge, but even if plane tickets to Canada are mad expensive around this time, I'm pretty sure James's ass could still afford it. Maybe he doesn't want to leave because that would show weakness to all his clients. I mean, neighbors. considering he sold almost all of his neighbors this top-of-the-line security system. Leaving the night of the purge definitely reads, hey, I scammed you. Plus, the Sandins live in a gated community which looks pretty far away from any major urban area, so there's never that much activity on purge night in the first place. But regardless of how much criminal activity you're used to seeing, there's no excuse for slacking off, and James simply does not take enough precautions to truly be ready for the night. I mean, yeah, he activated the security systems and he owns a few guns, but there's plenty more he could do. Like, for one, talk to your family, my dude. They should already have a plan for a worst-case scenario. Like, if people do get in their home, where does everybody go? How do they defend themselves? Is there a way to get help? The same as how preparing for a natural disaster needs a backup plan, Purge Night should have one too. They can even review it every year and update it as needed, which now might be the time since those renovations do not look cheap. Part of that plan should include weapon training for his family. You don't necessarily need to give everyone a weapon during the purge, but they should all understand how the guns work and be ready to use them. There's probably some room on their property for a small firing range, or they could drive to one every few months or so just to practice. The other important part of talking to your family should be a conversation about the events of that day. I don't mean asking how everyone's day was like James does during dinner. I mean, that's nice and all, but not really that useful during the purge. Instead, as you're preparing for a lockdown, talk to your family about warning signs. Already a few things are off. James noticed that 2 of their neighbors who have never appeared as friends are gearing up to go hunting, aka kill innocent people. Also, Grace is inviting people over for a purge party after explicitly telling Mary she wasn't having one. Both of those things should tell everyone that they might be in for some trouble. If James bothered to ask his family about other warning signs, Zoe might point out their next door neighbor was sharpening a machete not too long ago. We don't know if this is weird for that particular neighbor, but a warning is still a warning. With all this information, the entire family can have a solid purge night game plan, and they can start with more observation of their neighbors. If they seem like they're getting into a lot of violence, get out more of those weapons and be ready to defend yourself should the need arise. Finally, it's not really a good idea to split the family up. James seems like a pretty respectful dad, allowing his kids to have their own space, but on purge night, it's just not really the best idea. Keep everyone close together, that's the smarter move. It isn't necessary to always have them within eyesight, but knowing where they are and what they're doing is safe. Being close to each other allows for more discussion and improvisation should things change suddenly. All bets are off during the purge, so improving plans on the fly might be necessary. But more important than last-minute plans, though, being together should make everyone more comfortable. Charlie's already expressed lots of nervousness about the night, and Mary knows this, having spoken to him about it before dinner. If James were more observant, he would recognize the need for the same thing. Charlie even has a heart monitor on his wrist, so clearly being stressed is not something he has an easy time with. Spending the night together doing activities like watching a movie, playing a game, talking, or even just being near each other can help decrease everyone's stress levels. And less stress means they'll be thinking more clearly if things start to go wrong. The family sits and listens to the ominous sirens outside while James says that they have enough protection to feel safe for the rest of the night, easy. Zoe then leaves the room and Charlie stands up and questions why they don't participate in the purge. He asks if they would smoke someone tonight if they needed to, but James explains that the night is necessary for people to release their anger on the world. Charlie wouldn't remember the state of the country before the purge, but this event saved America from poverty and crime. Charlie leaves and James tells his wife that he's got paperwork related to his bonus, offering to watch a movie later as a family. Upstairs, Zoe walks out of the bathroom looking kind of bored when suddenly her boyfriend Henry grabs her from behind. He explains he snuck in during the family's dinner, so now he's locked in there with them. They make out, but Zoe warns him that his dad could come in at any minute, which is when Henry reveals that he's not simply here to make out, but he wants to confront her dad for not letting him see his own girlfriend. Bad idea, Chief. James then continues his paperwork while the news airs a critique of whether the purge is really just an excuse for the government to get rid of all the poor people who can't protect themselves. Charlie's toy then rolls in, pointing at the television, which Charlie watches through the camera as a brutal murder is recapped. After completing a workout, Mary hears gunshot-like sounds coming from somewhere in the neighborhood. She and James take a look at their security cameras for any intruders, but her husband insists that it's the purge hunters firing off test rounds and not a threat to them. Now, through his toy in the surveillance room, Charlie spots an intruder right outside of their house on the cameras. He runs into the empty room and watches as this bloody stranger pleads for someone to help him. I mean, he's like begging for safety from the group that killed his friend, and with a man's life on the line, Charlie decides decides to disarm the security system and let him inside. He rushes to the front door to call the man in while James scrambles to reactivate the security system, and meanwhile, Zoe and Henry argue about talking with her father. The bloody stranger rushes inside just as the doors close and Charlie's parents arrive, demanding to know why this stranger was let into the house. James then ups the blicky and aims it at the dude, but then Henry and Zoe appear on the staircase. Henry calls out to James, pulls a gun out of his pocket and fires at the father, who returns the shots, aiming pretty dangerously close to his own daughter. Then all hell breaks loose as Zoe and her boyfriend run upstairs, and in the commotion, the stranger disappears. Alright, we gotta pause after that, cause what the hell even just happened here? Charlie let a bleeding stranger into the house, Henry snuck in before lockdown and just tried to shoot James, but got shot instead, and now the stranger just dipped. Luckily James, Mary, and Charlie got out alright, but now Zoe's gone MIA with her boyfriend, so damn. What are we gonna do now? Well, we have to decide who's the bigger threat at the moment, the stranger or Henry, and that's a pretty tough call. While the bloody stranger is pretty sus, he hasn't tried to harm any of the family, at least so far, but Henry, on the other hand, just tried to murk James. And plus, the stranger doesn't look like he's got any weapons, while we know that Henry is definitely strapped. It'd be possible for the stranger to find the family's stash of weapons in the control room, but he doesn't know the layout of the home, so there's less of a chance of this happening. Or at least it would probably take him a little longer. This brings up the other advantage that Henry has. He does know the Sandins' home. I mean, he was able to sneak in and hide up until a few minutes ago, so he definitely knows the place pretty well. We don't exactly know how many times he snuck into the house, but considering he was making out with Zoe in her room this afternoon and had to sneak out from the balcony, it seems like he's done this all before. He can find his way around easily, making it harder for the family to track him down. But we also gotta take Zoe into account here. She likes her boyfriend a lot, and does seem to be angry at her father for not allowing them to be together, but in on a plot to kill her own dad? That's clearly a little step too far. She didn't know Henry was in the house until minutes before this, so it's also reasonable that she didn't know he was packing or what he planned to do with it. She disappeared with Henry after the shootout, could have been hit by any of the flying bullets, and is now somewhere in the home with a crazed teenager and a blicky. That could easily turn into a hostage situation, and Henry seems unstable enough to use his own girlfriend as leverage against her father. So at the end of the night, hopefully Zoe just dumps this wacko and maybe gets a restraining order. Now, all of this considered, James and Mary should focus on Henry first. Plus, the stranger has been given shelter in their home against the parents' will, true, but shelter still, and probably won't try to ruin that for himself by causing any trouble. So what's the best plan for dealing with Henry here? First, take Charlie to a safe place. Taking him with you as you search for a crazy boy with a gun is not the most safe idea. Once Charlie is safely hidden, James and Mary can begin to search the house. They both have guns and know the layout pretty well, so splitting up, while typically a terrible idea, might be more advisable here. By moving as 2 units rather than 1, they can find Henry quicker, and once they find him, they can call out to the other for help. Taking down a kidnapper in a hostage situation is also advisable up to a point. Henry is not interested in having an actual conversation about his needs, despite what he told Zoe, so neither one should spend any more time talking with him than necessary. Basically, they should just knock this dude out on sight, but it would probably be better for everyone to keep him alive if they can. The goal is to disarm him and get away from anyone he can hurt. Getting Zoe to safety is the top priority. However, throwing Henry outside before also finding the stranger is kind of risky, because wouldn't you want to only have to open the security system one time? You know, kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Tying up Henry and locking him in a room could work, or someone can go to the kitchen or bathroom, grab a few supplies, and give Henry a little bit of an urge to sleep, if you know what I mean. Is that a little harsh? Probably, but let's not forget this kid just tried to kill somebody. Seems like a reasonable trade. Plus, if these methods work, once we track down the stranger, we can hopefully repeat these steps and bam, you've got 2 unconscious bodies to toss outside or lock up in your house until dawn. Mary stresses that there's nothing to do besides head for safety, so the 3 of them run into the surveillance room. She wants to search for Joey, but James convinces her to stay behind to protect her son from the stranger, while he goes out there to check it out. James walks into his daughter's room and spots Henry's lifeless body having bled out onto the carpet. As he surveys the scene, the stranger appears for a moment behind them and then disappears again. Then you got some more crazy shit going on outside, where a group of armed strangers makes its way towards the Sandins' home. Mary hears her daughter in the hallway and tells Charlie that she'll be gone for just a second. She does find Zoe, who's shocked by what her boyfriend did, repeating that she had no idea what his plans were. But Charlie interrupts to warn her about something, and Zoe uses the distraction to run off. James hears people calling his name from outside, noticing a group forming around the house. He heads upstairs and informs his wife about Henry's death, questioning where Zoe went. Mary leads him inside the surveillance room where she and Charlie are watching these strangers in terrifying masks surround their home. One man comes forward to the front door, takes off his mask, and begins talking to them through the camera. He calls the family upstanding American citizens after noticing the blue flowers, which show their support for the Purge. The Purge leader introduces his group as a collective of educated individuals who are purging to cleanse their souls. And the Sandins' neighbors told them that the family gave their targeted victims shelter. The leader claims he's a psycho who's already killed one of their own and demands that they bring him outside so he can face his punishment. He gives them only the time before their equipment arrives to bring out their victim, otherwise their equipment will allow them to break into the family's home and then everybody's getting purged, not just the rando. And with that, he wishes them a good night before walking off with his psycho girlfriend. The Purgers then cut the power to the house, but a generator for the security system kicks in. James warns his family that the security system isn't really designed to survive a worst-case scenario, which they are definitely in the middle of. And if the Purgers have strong enough equipment, then they'll be able to break in. So they should prepare themselves for that possibility. As the Purgers taunt them from outside, James sits his family down to devise a plan. He insists that they find the stranger inside and kick him out, keeping them safe and the Purgers satisfied. He and Mary should split up to do this, and Charlie needs to stay in the security room. James paces through the hallway with his gun drawn and hears a startling sound from the other room. And suddenly he spots the stranger around this wall and chases him, but trips in the dark and loses his trail. Meanwhile, Mary hears the Purgers banging on her walls outside, claiming that no one will miss the injured man once he's gone. But she tries to ignore them and focus on finding the stranger. Charlie takes a look at the surveillance cameras, realizing that he can use his remote-controlled toy to secretly look around the house without danger. He begins to pilot the toy, then spots the stranger and moves over to see him crouching behind the couch. So he flashes the lights on the toy to get his attention. Confused, the stranger looks towards the camera and realizes that it's Charlie trying to help him. Charlie signals for him to follow, leading the injured man to his secret hideout in the closet and signaling for him to hide by flickering his toy's lights. So the man nods, gets into the space, and closes the door behind him. Charlie then spots his mom walking inside the room. The stranger senses danger and turns off the light in the hideout, and Mary continues to search the area with her gun drawn, and then she hears a loud noise and leaves the room. Downstairs, James hears the leader calling out to meet at the front door for a short talk. The leader confronts James, asking why the stranger hasn't been brought to them yet. James insists that the entire thing is just a misunderstanding and explains the situation with his son letting the guy in, but the leader only laughs. That's when another Purger freaks and starts yelling at James, but the leader doesn't hesitate to blast him straight in the head. He then reminds James that their equipment is arriving soon and then they'll have no problem forcing their way inside. The now dead Purger was the leader's friend, he says, and if he doesn't mind killing his own friend, how does James think it's gonna go once the Purgers get inside? So James insists that he'll go find him as soon as possible while the Purgers pull their dead away from the front door. Alright, let's pick up the pace here. James's current seek and find plan ain't working too good. Let's start with an obvious issue, like the lack of visibility. A few minutes ago, James came across the stranger, but lost him in a chase because he tripped over something he couldn't see. Then Mary almost found the guy, but left the room when she heard a noise somewhere else in the house. However, if she had better visibility, she might have clocked the light coming from the hideout in the closet and checked it out. She also might have noticed Charlie's toy moving about on the ground. Now, the Purge leader is not a very rational fella, as we can see that based on, well, everything about him. Like, you should definitely swipe left on this guy if he pops up on your dating app, I'm just saying. We can hope, though, that he understands basic logic, so if James or Mary calmly explained that part of their troubles are coming from the lack of light in the house, then he might actually catch on that he's actually making it harder for the Sandins to find this dude and fulfill his request. So as crazy as it sounds, maybe they should just ask the guy to turn the power back on so they can see better. Then the Sandins would have an easier time, the Purgers might be able to see their targets better, and the stranger? Well, yeah, what about the stranger? He's still the most disadvantaged in this situation. He doesn't have a weapon. He's not familiar with the layout of the house. He doesn't even know the full situation. And there are way many more people looking for him than he can realistically escape. Now, if James or Mary tried explaining this to the leader, that might be helpful, because when you think about it, the Sandins are currently in a hostage situation themselves. And according to most hostage experts, calmly talking with the criminal criminals, and showing that you understand their dilemma or emotions can help shift things in your favor, even if all you're really doing is stalling for time. Address them directly. Repeat information back to them to show you understand and ask questions. You know, basically like a first date, except with a crazy purge person. Plus, James is a salesperson by trade, so he probably knows most of these tactics already. After all, isn't talking to a salesperson like kind of being in a hostage situation too? But to really convince the leader that turning the power on is a good idea, they gotta explain that this doesn't give them a way to seek outside help. By this point in the night, with such extreme stakes for the family, they would have already called for help if they had some way to do that, right? I mean, they got cell phones, as we saw when Zoe was listening to music at the beginning of the night, but have they used them to call for help? Nah. Probably because all emergency services are out of commission for the entire purge, and their neighbors also don't seem very concerned about what's happening at this house, if they've noticed it at all, so it looks like they're on their own. So if they point all these things out to the leader, they might convince him to turn the power back on. But he is pretty crazy, so assuming he doesn't agree, let's switch up our plan for quicker, better results. We need more people searching for the stranger. Inviting the purgers inside is a terrible idea, but the kids are already inside and can help in a safe-ish way. Since James and Mary know about Charlie's remote control toy, they should try to use it. Charlie's clearly already had this idea, but didn't tell his parents, since he's on Team Bloody Stranger. However, if James and Mary were to get the help of this robot toy, they could quietly locate the stranger in relative safety. If either parent went to Charlie to get the remote for the toy, this would lead into a conversation between them about where the stranger is hiding. While Charlie might not necessarily give up the fact that he knows where he's at, it would be enough to signal to the parents that their son knows more than they do. Having the conversation about this moral dilemma would be tough since Charlie probably feels guilty towards this entire situation, but at least then the parents could find out where this dude is. Meanwhile, Charlie continues watching the house through his remote control toy. Zoe, terrified, appears on the camera and tells her brother that Henry is dead, and she doesn't know why there's people surrounding the house. But she has Henry's gun and should be safe. She tells Charlie to stay where he is and says she's going to hide in his secret hideout. And Charlie panics, knowing who else is hiding there, but there's no way for him to tell her. James walks into his son's room to see the stranger holding Zoe hostage. He directs James back into the hall and orders him to drop the gun. James tries to negotiate, saying that the purgers are about to kill them all if he doesn't leave, so he's willing to put his own daughter's life at risk to kill the man himself. Mary quietly sneaks up behind the man, gun drawn, and when the negotiation fails, James screams for Mary to shoot him, and the stranger throws Zoe against the wall and tries to run away. But James tackles him to the ground, firing off a blind shot before realizing that his daughter just got KO'd. But with the stranger defeated, James explains the plan to put him on a chair, roll him out the front door, satisfy the purgers, and survive the night. He makes Charlie point the light towards them while they pick the man up, and on the count of 3, the parents place him on this chair when suddenly the stranger starts trying to get free. James yells for Mary to grab the letter opener, and she hesitates as a terrified Charlie watches, but James yells at her again, so she grabs the letter opener and brutally sticks it into the man's wound, putting him back onto the chair while threatening to go deeper if he struggles. James insists that they continue going with the plan, but the family begins to have second thoughts, and Mary questions how they ended up getting to this insane, heartless decision. She can't bring herself to sacrifice the stranger, but that's when she realizes that Charlie has disappeared and chases after him. James debates on what to do with the stranger before realizing that Zoe is finally up. He tells her that everything's going to be okay and the situation is almost resolved, but Zoe can't believe what her old man has done in the name of protecting them. She says this night has changed them all forever and nothing will be okay again. And James looks towards the bloodied stranger, who frees his mouth from the tape and offers himself up to be taken outside, saying how he doesn't want to cause them any more harm. It's time to really assess the problem here, James Sandin. Because the more I think about it, I'm starting to realize that you done f***ed up, my man. Let's start with a major problem that existed well before the night, the security system. Because honestly, that stuff was buns low-key. The stranger getting into their house has been causing an awful lot of trouble, to put it lightly. But the reason the stranger was even able to get in was because of their son. Charlie seems like a reasonable kid who mostly wants to understand the world around him and control the things he can. Even since before the purge started, he was asking all these deep moral questions, but they only ever gave him no answer, or some very vague ones. Granted, this whole purge scenario isn't the easiest thing to explain, but James hardly even tries. The dinner table would have been a perfect time to have some of these discussions and outline the rules and expectations of the night. But instead, James is too caught up in his own accomplishments to notice that his son truly needs help. Maybe if James spent more time listening to his kid, Charlie might have never let the stranger in to begin with. But let's break down that action. Charlie, feeling confused since no one wanted to talk about the purge, lets in a stranger in need of help. But why did Charlie have the code to the system in the first place? This seems like very basic child-proofing. Don't give your children the single number that could jeopardize everyone's life on a night where all crime is legal and no one can help you. Like, so he's way too laid back when it comes to just about every precaution tonight. And you know what else James let slide? Zoe's relationship with Henry. He does not like them being together because of their difference in ages, but yet he never actually does anything about it. As soon as he gets home, Mary asks him to talk to Zoe about her boyfriend, to which he literally responds, "There's nothing I can do." Sorry, but you're literally her dad, there's plenty you could do. Even though that wouldn't have been a very fun conversation to have, it's kind of necessary. More importantly though, if James walked upstairs as soon as his wife asked him to, he would have caught Henry inside the house. The two could have had their conversation on the spot, and honestly, it probably would have ended in a fist fight, but it didn't look like Henry had a gun yet, so at least it would have been less violent. Plus, any interaction between him and Henry would have discouraged Henry from coming back later that night, or at the bare minimum, make James aware of Henry's psychotic behavior and his breaking and entering skills. With all of this knowledge, James would have been far better prepared for the twists the night was about to bring. Now here is where we get into even more hot water, the actual events during the purge. James never keeps his children near him on the most dangerous night of the year. In doing this, he's trying to respect their boundaries, especially Zoe, but ultimately this clears the way for both his children to put the entire family in very bad situations. Zoe becomes hostage to her boyfriend, and Charlie gets into the security room and lets the stranger in. But if James potentially cramped his kids' style for a single night to keep everyone in the same room, both of these things would have played out very differently. Charlie couldn't have let anyone in, and if Henry still made it in before lockdown, at least he would have been a lot more cautious about shooting James with his girlfriend sitting right next to him. Even as the family was locking down their home, James ignored all the red flags that he saw on the security camera, and didn't listen to his wife when she tried to explain that something was wrong with their neighbors. Now, after all this shit's gone down, James almost completely shunned any help from his family. He only wants his wife to look after the children rather than help rid their home of intruders. And when this dude got into their home, James's immediate reaction was to point a gun at him and escalate the situation. But this was a pretty bad decision because it caused the stranger to immediately distrust the family when they could have been working together. It also put Charlie and Mary in harm's way by involving a loaded strap, so there's that. Then of course, when the purgers do show up, James didn't try to reason with them or even attempt to resolve the situation in a non-violent way. Sure, the purgers don't seem like your friendly neighborhood people, but other options should at least be considered, right? But nah, he's just continued to make things worse by asking his family to do all this violent stuff that might not even be necessary. I mean, stabbing an already wounded, frightened, and defenseless man with a letter opener? Damn, bro! It's pretty understandable why Mary wouldn't want to do that. And asking your kids to hold the flashlight while she does it? That's pretty messed up. So when you've reached the level of your entire family turning against you and calling you an evil monster in comparison to literal machete-wielding, masked-up crazies, James, my boy, you done up. James walks outside as Mary frantically looks for their missing son, and then the purgers start attacking the house, placing chains on every door and window. She rushes upstairs to tell James what the purgers are doing when he reveals a change of heart about sending the stranger out to die. Charlie and Mary reappear, and his father hands Charlie a blicky, insisting that he hide in the basement. James tells Mary that it's time to fight fire with fire and murk these purgers, so they divide up the weapons, agreeing to cover separate sides of the house, and then blam anyone on sight. The leader shouts from outside that their time is up. He's disappointed that they didn't follow his orders, and now they're gonna pay with their lives. The group starts to pull off the security walls while Mary walks over to cover the backside of their home. James hides behind a firewall, carefully watching the masked purgers inspect their front door. And suddenly, the windows are smashed open bit by bit, and a purger walks inside, firing off rounds in the hallway. Mary's pretty terrified, hearing someone moving closer to her direction, so she moves through the house with her gun drawn, not realizing that they're closing in behind her. Then you got Charlie over here, who's carefully hiding in the basement behind the couch, but suddenly a masked purger jumps right in front of him. So Charlie fires his gun, but misses, and gets dragged out into the open. The purger points his gun at Charlie, but then James starts blasting him from the hallway, saving Charlie Charlie just in time. The leader strolls through their house, taking a look at this picture of Zoe who's hiding under his bed, and she hears the leader command someone to save her for himself. Ugh. James then makes sure that his son is alright and then walks back out of the basement to look for more purgers, and he does spot one and kills one from behind. Then he goes into the entertainment room and finds a couple and immediately fires at them, but they hide from his shots, and the man pushes James against the wall. James manages to push him off as his girlfriend swings an axe, barely missing James, but the man starts choking him out with a gun. James grabs a pool ball and knocks the man out before rolling around and shooting the crazed girl. Her boyfriend walks over to kick James before he gets up, but James grabs him and smashes his face into an arcade machine. Then another purger storms in and fires a pistol, missing every shot before James jumps on top of him. He manages to pull away from James and crawls to his shotgun, but he grabs the axe and brutally swings it into his back. James makes sure they're all dead. He starts to walk out when suddenly the leader rounds the corner and stabs him in the stomach. He holds James as he falls to the ground, assuring him that everything's okay now. James's soul has been purged by the killing, the leader says, but he thanks him for the unforgettable purge as he takes the knife out of his body. The vandals continue wrecking the house while Charlie watches the surveillance cameras, noticing the neighbors shooting some of the purgers outside. Meanwhile, Mary paces around the house until she's blindsided by two thugs, and she's held down and struggles to get out while the girl pulls out a giant machete. And that's when two neighbors save her life, gunning the purgers down and then quickly walking away. Mary runs over to check out what's going on, seeing her husband bleeding out while Charlie runs over to comfort his father. But the leader appears and lectures them for their disobedience as he readies to gun them down. This is when Zoe shoots the leader, then rushes over to check on her dad. Apologizing for everything, the family cries in each other's arms as James breathes his final breath, and the night of terror is finally over. Their neighbors appear and Mary thanks them for saving their lives, but Grace claims they were just helping out a fellow neighbor in trouble. And then she says that they don't belong to the purgers, they belong to them. Confused, Mary questions what the hell she means before James's body is dragged away, and Grace orders her group to tie the family up and kill them right where they stand. Grace struggles to pull Mary away as she screams, begging them not to harm her children. And then she reveals that they saw this as an opportunity to get revenge, cause she hates the Sandins for robbing the community blind and persuading everyone to buy their faulty security systems out of fear. Mary begs her not to kill them, but Grace and her followers begin reciting the mantra of the new founding fathers. This is when Charlie notices his remote control toy moving by itself, and the neighbors notice it as well, just as the stranger attacks this neighbor, taking Grace hostage and killing one of the members of their group. He orders them to drop their weapons and untie the family, and then he turns to Mary, asking for permission to kill them. Grace screams for Mary to shoot them all fast, but Mary refuses. She's not going to allow any more deaths tonight, instead leaving them all alive and waiting for the 7 a.m. purge to end. So they sit around a table blankly staring at each other, and Mary sarcastically asks them if they enjoyed their purge, setting off Grace's anger. She jumps up to grab Mary's weapon, but Mary smashes her head in with the gun and shoves her into the table, screaming at her to stop the violence. Eventually, the clock strikes 7 a.m. and the sirens go off, announcing the end of the purge. Mary demands that they get the out of her house, and the neighbors stagger out. Mary, Zoe, and Kate walk towards the front door, surveying the carnage outside. And as they stand there, the sound of emergency vehicles approaches. It looks like they survived the purge, but if there's one lesson we can all learn here, it's that you should never rip off people, especially when they live right next door to you.
You're stranded in downtown LA, and for 12 horrible hours, the government has legalized all crime, even murder. Miles from home and without a weapon, how do you survive when everyone in Los Angeles wants to kill you? I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the Purge Anarchy. This is the day that everyone's been dreading. Eva here is anxious to clock out of her crap job. She's only got 2 hours to get home and prepare for tonight's purge, a yearly event where all crime is legalized. If you get stuck outside when it starts, you're almost guaranteed to get brutally murdered. A coworker teases that he might kidnap her tonight, and her friend's a little jealous of the attention, but it's not funny or cute. He has every legal right to kidnap, rape, and kill both of these women. Alright. This is a f***ing stressful situation. The smallest thing could piss someone off, and the next thing you know, you're being hunted down in the purge. That Starbucks barista who gets your name wrong, dead for sure. No matter who you think you trust, you shouldn't, because the worst version of them will come out tonight. And almost all murders across the world are committed by people who know the victims. So keep to yourself and don't piss anyone off. The waitress walks back home, passing by people urgently shuttering everything closed and boarding up their storefronts. An arms dealer stops her and tries to convince her she should buy weapons to slit her man's throat. That's a serious sales pitch, and it makes her really uncomfortable. Little does she know that tonight, she'll be caught in the purge, and she'll be wishing she brought that gun. Now, you obviously won't be surviving the night without decent preparation. Americans spend $11 billion on firearms per year, and there's no way I'm living in this America without a weapon for every occasion. But not everyone has the money to build themselves a doomsday bunker. So what's the best strategy on a budget? I would make sure I had a tactical whip. These things f***ing hurt. Even a light swing can bring a man to tears, and it requires zero skill or strength to inflict maximum damage. She walks into her building and gets harassed by her sleazy superintendent. Not the kind of guy you want around you during the purge. This guy is seriously gross, and she manages to evade him, but I wouldn't risk being rude on purge night, because this encounter is gonna come back to haunt her. She gets home and is greeted by her daughter Callie and her dad. He's sick and needs expensive medicine, which costs them a fortune every month. That's money they should be spending on security and weapons, and it makes the dad feel guilty as hell. In another part of the city, Shane and Liz are a couple rushing to get home right before the killing starts. Talk about a bad time to do groceries. Getting back into their car, a guy slams into them, freaking them out. He's a member of a huge gang of purgers, and all of them just can't wait to start killing. One of them is even nice enough to wave hello. They have no idea that their evening is already ruined, and they won't be making it home tonight. On their way back, the car breaks down, and the husband finds out it's been sabotaged. This guy was toying with them, and that would seriously freak me the fuck out. The masked gang pulls up behind them, but they'll have to wait until the sirens blare. The couple try to call for help and take way too long because they're minutes away from the purge. Okay, what the hell are they doing? The key to surviving the purge has everything to do with preparation, and they couldn't even plan ahead enough for their groceries. Transportation in LA is notoriously bad, and they probably aren't getting any taxis when the purge is imminent. If my life was in danger every year, I would plan ahead and make sure I had hoverboards in the car at all times. If they live 15 miles away, they can make it home in under an hour. And if you're wondering about the car, I'll bet there would be some kind of purge insurance for this. It might cost them an arm and a leg, but at least won't cost them their lives. At home, the waitress and her daughter prepare themselves for the purge as best as they can, but it ain't easy when you're on a budget. A warning flashes on the TV announcing the purge has begun. All crime will be legal for 12 hours, including murder. No emergency services will be available. The purgers get ready for slaughter, and these people are not messing around. They're hacking people up, filling them with bullets, and setting the city on fire. This guy has a freaking minigun in his truck and tears up two people walking by. This isn't even a fair fight. Downtown, the couple are totally stranded with no weapon, and if they don't find a place to hide, they'll be gunned down soon. Hiding in this trash bin is not the worst idea. Nobody wants to sort through piles of trash, hoping to find an unlucky victim. Purgers only have 12 hours to kill as many as they can, so they don't want to waste time looking for victims in unlikely or hard to reach places. Your instinct is to look for cover, but that's a mistake. All the buildings downtown are probably locked up, and gaining access to rooftops would be unlikely. I would be looking for 360-degree clear lines of sight and the lowest population density in the city, and that's a golf course. No purger would be wasting his time there, and you'd be able to see anyone coming for you from miles away. The mother and the daughter realize the old man is missing and find a message he left for them. He sold himself to rich clients who will kill him and send his family the money. It's horrifying, and the worst part is, the waitress isn't even surprised. This is how the rich purge, buying and killing their victims in the safety of their homes. Now, if you're rich in the purge, you obviously have nothing to worry about because money is the best weapon of them all. They would be the safest people in the city, and that's why I would become a housekeeper, a nanny, or a butler. The rich families rely on you, and you get to spend purge night in the safety of their homes. They hear a strange noise outside and see heavily armed soldiers come out of a truck. These guys definitely don't look like purgers. So who are they? Their front door suddenly explodes into pieces. Someone has broken in, and their only gun is in the other room. It's the superintendent. The guy's here to purge, and nothing's gonna stop him from raping and killing them both, and not necessarily in that order. Now you'd think this front door would be strong enough, but clearly, if someone has their heart set on murdering you, these boards won't stop a shotgun blowing through it. But how do you protect your home if you have no money? The cheapest and most effective way is to place steel doors between every room, with bolts and multiple padlocks. This provides safety from a threat inside the home, and the padlocks will each need to be shot through, wasting his ammunition. Guns would likely be cheap in this dystopian nightmare, so I'd have one secretly planted in every room. But they didn't take it seriously enough, and now they only have one option left. The mother begs him to leave her daughter alone, offering herself instead. He starts licking her face, but his quality time is interrupted by some noises outside. He goes to investigate and gets absolutely riddled with bullets. The two women hide in a closet and see soldiers come inside, looking ready to kill any survivors. They wait in terrified silence for the men to leave, but the closet door is thrown open. Instead of killing them, they're pulled through the building, watching their neighbors get executed. But why are they taking them and purging everyone else? Capturing someone is a sign they're going to do something even more twisted and f***ed up than a simple execution. Outside, a man in an armored car sees the two women getting thrown to the ground. He knows he shouldn't get involved, but he can't let them die. Lucky for them, this sergeant has a heart of gold, but he'll definitely be regretting this later. The divorced couple appear and spot the man's car. Taking cover, they realize the doors are unlocked and climb in to hide. Now, I'd immediately be trying to hotwire this thing. We've all seen it done in movies, but the truth is, since 2004, cars are virtually impossible to hotwire due to advanced computerized locking chips. But they still have a chance to steal the car and escape, because this man left his keys in the ignition, and they don't even bother to check. Shameful. The sergeant ambushes the soldiers, sweeping through the ranks, and shoots that minigunner guy in the face. This guy is a total badass. Once he's sure the area is clear of hostiles, he takes the woman with him to his car. Okay, let's take a moment to applaud his humanity. But also, this is really dumb. When every single person in LA is a threat, you can't let compassion get in the way. Decisions like this will get you killed. Seeing the strangers inside, the sergeant asks them politely to get the f*** out, but they don't have time to argue. The minigunner is still alive, and the masked gangsters have returned. They're cornered and need to move fast. They get into the car and narrowly escape, getting shot up in the process. The gang will catch up to them soon, and the sergeant demands to know why the two women were being taken instead of killed, but they have no idea. The daughter tries to find out what he was doing out there, but the answer is pretty obvious. He's voluntarily out during the purge, he's got an armored vehicle, he's strapped to the teeth with weapons and ammo. This guy is f***ing dangerous, because he's out here to kill. But then why is he saving people? Something doesn't add up. The engine starts smoking and they pulled over. The car is toast, and now they can't hide from purgers or drive away. The situation just got way more dangerous, and the sergeant doesn't want the extra baggage of 4 defenseless idiots to protect all night. At least he had the decency to give the husband a gun. Nothing they say will change his mind until the waitress promises she can get him a car, but only if he gets them to her friend's house safely. He agrees to the deal, and she calls her friend to tell her they'll be coming over. But first, they have to get through the purgers. Their plan is to go down 5th and cut through the business district to avoid all gangs. Okay, already this is the worst plan ever. 5 people and 2 guns is a recipe for disaster. They're too vulnerable in the open streets, especially when there are snipers perched above them. Fortunately, LA has an epic underground tunnel system that was used during the Prohibition era. The King Eddie Saloon's basement is a part of the tunnel network, which is 2 blocks away from them. Under the city, there's a tunnel that connects the King Edward Saloon all the way to City Hall. They could try to break in and use the underground tunnels to hide out for the night, or resurface behind the Hollow Records on Temple Street using the staircase. Those masked thugs suddenly appear, chasing a victim down and throwing him into their ice cream van before driving away. It's not exactly normal purge night behavior, and it's honestly even scarier than being killed. Who knows what they might have planned, and they might not release you when the purge is over. The husband suggests they can take a shortcut and walk straight into a trap. He activates a blaring alarm and is dragged down the street. That's the worst thing you could ask for. Now every purger is coming for you and you have nowhere to hide. The sergeant fights them off and tells the husband to shoot the wire off quick. This is a lot harder to do and would waste a lot of ammo. It would have been a lot smarter to place the wire against the curb and shoot it at an angle so it won't ricochet back at you and you'll have a better chance to hit it. The husband frees himself and the group cuts through an alleyway. They only need to survive for 6 more hours, but it's going to get way more intense. An anti-purge resistance has hacked the billboards, calling on people to rebel against the government. They're going to be making a big move tonight, and these guys will be caught in the middle of an all-out political purge war. Finally reaching the business district, the group discovers an abandoned truck, and there are dead soldiers everywhere on the ground. It's the same truck from earlier that night. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean it's safe. Liz here suddenly gets tackled by a soldier. He's half dead and murmurs before he dies that they were just doing their duty. Whatever that means, these guys are funded by some serious money. They have a high-tech surveillance system that's connected to the city's traffic cams. Okay, this is obviously a horrible government conspiracy, but who cares? Tonight is about survival, and we've hit the jackpot. I will be switching through every map and security camera to find the safest path through the city. With an army of anti-purgers, purgers, and now soldiers gunning people down, this is our best chance to get out alive. I take all the weapons, vests, and ammo and leave. With this much machinery, trust me, somebody's coming back for it, especially when it might reveal a government conspiracy. The husband spots another giant truck turning the corner, and the group rushes to get out of there. Sneaking around the nearby alleys, the sergeant sees the street crawling with bloodthirsty purgers. Luckily, there's a subway entrance across from them, and they all run into the subway. Down in the tunnels, the daughter tries to persuade the sergeant to give up his bloodlust and stop looking for revenge. He refuses, but she grows on him, and he gives her his Kevlar vest before they move on. They might think they're safe because they're underground, but this is actually one of the worst places to be. There's only 2 directions to travel in, and it's easily accessible to the public. This is a tactical nightmare, and now that nightmare has become a reality. Purgers appear behind them riding in buggies with not only a freaking flamethrower, but a giant machine gun too. Everyone begins to run, but there's no way they can outrun these buggies. The couple starts shooting at the Purgers and the buggy explodes, but they still have 4.5 hours left in this nightmare. They finally arrive at the friend's apartment building, but they've been careless. The military bandits have spotted them through the traffic cams. Nowhere in the city limits is it safe for them to run, and it's only a matter of time before these soldiers find them. They're welcomed by the waitress's friend, and they invite them all to stay through the night, but there's some tension in the room. The sergeant asks the waitress about her friend's car she promised, except there is no car. She lied to make sure her daughter got to safety, but that's when one of the hosts walks out of the kitchen and shoots the friend without any warning. She screams at her husband for having an affair with her sister, and she's decided now is the time for payback. With dinner now officially ruined, they leave and regroup in the hallway. Together they sneak out of the building and over the fence, but as he's about to climb up, he hears the sound of soldiers coming around and is forced to hide. When the squad finally enters the building, he climbs over the fence only to get attacked by those masked purgers. He's knocked out and thrown into their truck with the rest of the group. The man in the god mask explains they've been following after the death squad trucks. They aren't here to purge, they just want to make money. Dragged out of the ice cream van, they're sold to these men who look a bit like waiters. This is getting really twisted. They're kneeled down on the line, and the curtain is drawn, revealing a huge dinner party for the richest and most powerful in the city. They're a part of tonight's entertainment, where these wealthy purgers get the privilege of hunting them down for sport. Now, it may not look like it, but this is their best news of the night. As soon as I hear hunting grounds, I'm smiling, because it means I have another chance to escape. We've got a military dude on our side, and let's be honest, these rich people are here because they aren't interested in getting hurt or risking their lives. The group gets herded into this dark arena, and the hunters enter wearing fancy night vision goggles with all kinds of weapons. They have a significant advantage here. These purgers are going to shoot them like fish in a barrel, and the sergeant's the only one with any combat experience. Their survival is placed completely in his hands. Okay, it's not looking good, but hiding in a corner will only get you killed. If you want to live, you have to win. My strategy here would be to disperse the group and get as high up as possible because they probably won't even think to look up. There are enough platforms here to climb, and jumping a nearby hunter could knock a weapon loose, giving you a chance at survival. He hides the group and goes off to hunt. He ambushes one of them, tackling the man to the ground and breaks his neck. The sergeant is an absolute killing machine, and the rich audience does not look pleased. By the time he's done, he's got a pair of shiny new shades with guns to spare. The host calls for reinforcements, and a small army comes down to kill the group. They're surrounded and outgunned, they have no bullets left, and the sergeant has no clever plan to save them. They're doomed. The husband gets shot in the chest by a gunman and dies instantly. There's still hope though, because someone is raiding the party. It's the anti-purgers, and they're here to rescue them. Oh shit, I love these guys. I want to be on their team without question, because they're badass, and also because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. This guy's squad of soldiers take out the gunman with ease, and now that they're free, the group sets off. The sergeant hijacks the host's car, and even though the purge is almost over, he is determined to finish his mission. They park near a suburban house where he explains to the waitress and the daughter how a drunk driver killed his son a year ago, and he's here to get his revenge. Callie here tries to convince him not to go through with it, but he snaps at her and tells the women to stay in the car. He easily breaks into the house and wakes up the driver at gunpoint. He goes on an emotional tirade about his dead son and holds a knife over the driver's head. Finally, this son of a bitch is getting what he deserves. The front door opens, and a blood-covered sergeant walks into the home, exhausted by what he's done. When out of nowhere, he's shot twice and falls to the ground. He sees that the man who shot him was the minigunner who tracked the sergeant down by his car's license plates. The shooter explains the sergeant broke the unwritten rule of purge nights by saving lives. Americans haven't been killing nearly enough, so the government has stepped in to keep body counts high. The sergeant is interfering with this job. The man's just about ready to kill the sergeant, but he's shot in the head. The bullet, courtesy of the drunk driver, who was left alive. The women rush out of the car and get into a face-off with some soldiers, but the sirens go off. The purge is officially over. The waitress and her daughter haul the sergeant into the driver's car and take him to the hospital, and once again, America waits for the next purge.
If you were the only one who can save the future president of the United States from an army of psycho killers, what would you do? The entire country's in chaos, and the very top leaders want you dead. So I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the killer politicians in the Purge election year. This man and woman have the fate of the entire country in their hands. They are about to face dozens of assassins as the streets burn in utter chaos around them. If they can just survive the night, they can put an end to this senseless violence for good. This group of corrupt politicians here are the new founding fathers of America. Among their many horrible acts, they support an event called the Purge across the country, where every year all crime is legal for 12 hours. Led by the current US president, the group is desperate for their candidate to win the upcoming presidential elections. Their candidate, Owens, is a religious minister and is also at the table to discuss his path to victory. The group discusses his opponent for the elections, being dismissive of her chances at first. But when they find out that she's gaining in popularity and has a chance to beat him, Owens starts looking afraid. The president is furious and swears that they should do everything possible to eliminate her as a threat. Sometime later, this woman, Senator Charlie Roan, debates Owens in front of a crowd of people. The man argues that the purge is a good thing because it gives citizens a chance to release their frustrations and cleanse the nation. However, the senator points out that it's just a way for his party to make money while killing off the poor without consequences. She assures the public that she will stop the annual purge if they elect her president. The senator climbs down from the stage and mingles with the crowd while her opponent stays above them, shouting that the nation needs to be purged. While the people are happy to speak with her, the woman's security chief gets nervous. This man, Leo, knows that Charlie is too valuable to the future of America to get hurt. He deploys his men to keep a closer watch on her as she continues to interact with the crowd. Meanwhile, the debate is playing on TV at a small deli. The owner agrees with Charlie's policies, but is not hopeful that she can make a real change. His assistant disagrees, believing that she can build a better future for working class people like them. One day before this year's purge begins, the White House has a major announcement. For the first time in history, high-ranking political officials will not be exempt from the purge. This means that even members of the government, like the senator here, can be legally murdered. Her team instantly recognizes this as a huge threat to her life and gets nervous. Leo tries to persuade her to hide out in a safe house for the duration of the upcoming purge, but the woman refuses. She wants to show her supporters that she is truly one of them and does not want to run away or hide behind special protection, making it clear she'll stay in her home for purge night. This has Leo worried. He knows that he will need to make extra preparations to keep his boss safe and agrees to do it, but this was their biggest mistake. Okay, this is a total death wish. It is crystal clear why those in charge changed the rules to allow killing political officials after years of keeping to tradition. They want to eliminate the senator during the upcoming purge and face no consequences for it. Knowing that it will be the president and the government themselves coming after her, staying home during purge night is simply not an option. These people have billions of dollars at their disposal and influence at every level of the community. It is perfectly reasonable to expect that they are both willing and capable of blowing up an entire city block and murder dozens of innocent people just to kill her. Not only will this be fully legal since it would occur on purge night, but the government can bribe independent militia groups to do this for them, then claim that it was an independent act of terrorism. This means that no amount of good preparations or improved security at the senator's house can prevent what these very powerful men are planning to do. If I were Leo here, I would never have agreed to this and worked hard to change the senator's mind about using a safe house. Since she clearly cares more about the people than herself, the best way to convince her would be to stop harping on points about her personal safety and instead plan her good nature. I would explain that as the future president of the nation who can save everyone from the annual purges, it is her duty to stay alive. This is not a selfish act, but rather a necessity to protect the people because she is the only one who is popular and well connected enough to rise to power and change the system for them. Playing further into her reluctance to receive special treatment, I would empathize that it isn't really about her at all, but about protecting any candidate on their side who happens to have the power to change the country. Once she's convinced, the focus here should be finding a safe place that is hard to find at all, rather than one which can be heavily defended. Since the enemy likely has weapons capable of completely destroying a wide area, it really doesn't make much of a difference if it has advanced locks or fancy security cameras. Leo's best move here would actually be to take the senator out of town alone, ditching all their electronics and vehicles or anything that can be used to track them. Then, using fake identities to ride a vehicle, they should drive into a rural and forest area to camp out for the night. This makes it difficult to launch a tactical attack on the senator as there will be no maps of the area and heavy cover from helicopters or sniper fire. Thankfully, the four most forested states in the United States, Maine, New Hampshire, West Virginia, and Vermont, are all near the East Coast and within a day's drive from the senator's house in Washington, D.C. With the purge quickly approaching, foreigners have also arrived from all over the world to join the killing. They look forward to being able to murder and riot on the craziest night of the year. At the deli, the owner Joe catches these two students stealing some candy. He approaches them and gives them a chance to give it back without calling the cops. They are not afraid of him and refuse, threatening that they will turn the tables on him if he doesn't leave them alone. Just then, a woman appears and tells the girls to give the candy back. They instantly recognize her as a local legend and someone not to be messed with. The students sneer as they give the candy back to Joe before leaving the store. They have clearly not learned their lesson. Joe thanks the woman Lainey for her help. She's an old friend of his who used to shoplift from his deli herself, but has since reformed. Joe gets a phone call from his insurance company. They inform him that their terms have changed, and they will have to drop coverage for his store unless he pays them a large amount of money. Joe is furious. He can't afford it, and knows that this means his deli will be completely unprotected during the purge. Thinking that he will lose everything if he lets the deli get destroyed on purge night, he makes a plan to defend it from looters through the night by himself. Both Lainey and his assistant warn him that this will be very dangerous, but the man is determined to protect what he's made. At the senator's house, Leo is prepping his team to keep guard over her for the night. He deploys guards to each room of her house, including some to keep watch outside. Leo has also added barricades to all the doors and windows to her home. The whole house will be monitored from a central command post, which has a view of the security footage from the many cameras around the premises. Charlie will have to stay in her office, which is the safest room in the house, where she will be protected by these guards. As night falls, Leo gives Charlie a final briefing, warning her not to leave the room for any reason till the purge is over. All his men are in place, with his most trusted assistants overseeing the monitors at the command post. At the deli, Joe locks up and climbs into the roof. He pulls out a pistol and a rifle, ready to defend his business through the long night. Meanwhile, on the streets, Lainey gets into a makeshift ambulance with a friend. Since medical services are suspended during the purge, they'll be driving around to provide emergency help to anyone who needs it. It is a very dangerous job, but the woman seems unfazed. That's when an announcement plays over all TVs across the country. It reminds citizens that all crime will be legal for the next 12 hours and no one is safe. As the message ends, terrifying sirens ring out across the public broadcast system. The purge has begun. Okay, Leo's plan here is a huge mistake. Getting all these men on board to guard the senator makes her less rather than more safe. Given the deep pockets of the new founding fathers, no one else can be trusted. Even if the men on his team are genuinely good people, almost anyone can be bribed, blackmailed, or coerced into turning on them. Since all crime will be legal for 12 hours during the purge, there is nothing stopping the new founding fathers from kidnapping the child of one of Leo's men and forcing them into killing the senator in exchange for their child's life. Regardless of their loyalty, almost no parent would sacrifice their own flesh and blood for a woman they barely know. Leo here knows that not all of his men, if any, have been turned on him. Otherwise, they could simply surround and overpower him on the spot. This means that any traitors in the ranks or assassins looking on breaking in will be planning on killing Charlie very quickly, before they can be overpowered by the other guards. Leo here should use this to his advantage and hire a body double to lock herself in the senator's office for the duration of the purge. Since his rules are that no one enters her office but him, everyone else will be fooled as they will only see this woman from far away. Anyone looking to kill the senator quickly before escaping will not have much time to study the woman's face and kill the double instead. Many common methods of killing quickly and decisively, such as an explosion or gunshot to the head, also involve the victim's face getting disfigured. This makes it even more difficult for potential killers to notice that they have killed the wrong woman. Now, as for Joe here, he's putting himself in so much unnecessary danger. The roof he chooses to keep watch from is surrounded by taller buildings and the rooftops of nearby buildings. This means that there are 100 different places all around him which someone can shoot him from before he even has a chance to react. If the deli is left unguarded, it is only in danger of attracting looters. But with Joe sitting on the roof like an easy target, he will attract additional attention and draw in any purger looking to kill someone for fun too. If Joe absolutely wants to be there, the best place for him to keep watch will be from within the store, where there are only 2 entrances and shutters on both doors. This minimizes his disadvantage of being on his own, as any attackers will have to come through the narrow door one at a time, giving him the chance to shoot them as they enter. Ironically, the best way he can defend his store would actually be to leave a simple note at the entrances saying this deli contains no valuables and is booby-trapped to kill. This would deter both looters and killers, because it informs them that there's nothing to steal and no one to kill inside. Even purgers with a specific vendetta against Joe, like the shoplifters, will think twice before entering, likely figuring that the chance to vandalize the store isn't worth risking their lives. With the purge in full swing, Lainey sees the utter chaos as she drives through the streets. People have gathered in hordes to riot, many factions are roving with weapons, and there are public beheadings as people cheer. At the deli, Joe's assistant Marcos arrives to help him defend the store, but suddenly they spot a car wrapped in lights office, blaring loud music as it pulls up. It's the shoplifters from earlier, armed with guns, and they've returned with another friend. They have come for revenge of the owner and have no qualms about killing the man. Their leader threatens Joe, bragging that she's already killed her parents and that he is next. As she's about to attack, Marcos shoots her in the ear. This scares the gang off for the time being, and they drive away, but the men know they'll be back. At the senator's home, these two men and the security team tamper with the surveillance monitor. They are traitors working with someone to kill Charlie, and this guard sends out a message for the assassins to make a move. Suddenly, a group of gunmen dressed in black ambush the guards outside, killing them. These men are heavily armed, and it's clear they're not only professionals, but have come here to kill the senator. The traitorous guard goes to the front door and lets the assassins inside. At the same time, Leo tries to reach the guards outside on his walkie-talkie, but doesn't get an answer from anyone. Knowing something is wrong, he checks the cameras and realizes that someone has sabotaged the feed. He fixes it and sees that all the guards outside have been killed. Leo springs into action and rushes into the senator's office. He tells her they are being attacked and unveils a secret trapdoor in the floor. Using it to get outside, the bodyguard quickly kills two assassins and tells the woman they will have to run for it. Back at the office, the two traitors break in to find her gone. They discover the trapdoor and know that she's trying to escape. One of them spots the pair from a window and a sniper starts to shoot at them. The survivors duck for cover as fast as possible, but Leo is shot in the shoulder. In the midst of firing back in desperation, Leo takes out his phone and activates a device. This makes a suitcase of the senator's office start to beep, and the traitor realizes too late that it's a bomb. Before anyone can escape the room, it blows up in a massive explosion. This gives Leo and Charlie the chance to run away. The two traitors and a gunman are killed in the blast, but the mercenary leader has survived and instructs his remaining men to go after the pair. Running through the streets, the survivors find two bodies dressed in red, white, and blue. It's strange, but as they're walking past them, the bodies spring to life and attack them with weapons. Leo shoots and kills them, but another man ambushes him from inside a car. As Charlie tries to help him, they are both ambushed from behind by purgers dressed as Uncle Sam and the Statue of Liberty. These are the foreign tourists who have come to enjoy American culture and, more importantly, join the Purge. The whole thing has been a trap for anyone unlucky enough to cross their paths, and no one is coming to save them. Okay, Leo and Charlie let their fear take over here, causing them to make the wrong decisions. With the assassins still after them and the streets filled with dangerous purgers, they should have stopped running and acting like easy prey. These murder tourists have said themselves that they are out for blood because it is fun. And the same goes for the local purgers who are having the time of their lives killing people at random. This means that anyone perceived to be an easy kill will be attacked on sight. The first thing Leo and Charlie should have done after escaping the house is to find a disguise so the assassins no longer recognize them. Using the dead bodies that litter the street, they could change their clothes and even smear their faces with any face paint or blood they can find. This is a common look for purgers and will help them blend in with the others roaming the streets. Next, as soon as they saw the Purge Sanitation Services truck pass by, they should have climbed on board. This gives them the chance to play dead and lay low among the other dead bodies in the truck until it has driven a safe distance away. According to Purge etiquette, vehicles that provide services such as Lady's ambulance or this sanitation truck will not be attacked. If the drivers refuse to let them on board, Leo can knock them out and steal their clothes to pose as sanitation workers. This may be a bit cold, but the senator's survival here is more important than people who are knowingly risking their lives by being out on purge night. With that said, the way that Leo and Charlie walked into an ambush by foreign purgers also could have been easily avoided. The elaborate makeup and costumes the bodies are wearing show that they are willing purgers, people who seek out violence by killing others for sport on purge night. This means that they are sadistic and unhinged, way too dangerous to approach even if they are genuinely wounded. This is also an indication that they love the theatrics of the purge, and it would not be a stretch to imagine they are capable of being equally dramatic and playing dead to spring a trap on unlucky passers-by. Even more suspicious is the fact that these bodies have no visible wounds, and the walls of the building and car they are slumped against have no blood splatter on them. This doesn't make sense, because these people are posed as if they died instantly in a big fight, but a gunshot or slash wound would have left a bloody mess around their bodies. As a habit, Leo should give these lunatics the violence they want and shoot any bodies they come across in the head to make sure they are dead before approaching. The mob of foreign purgers drag Leo and Charlie to the middle of the road, preparing to execute them. At that moment, Joe and Marco spot the commotion near the deli and come to help. Before the purgers can react, the men shoot down the entire mob and save their lives. With no time to lose, all four survivors retreat into the deli where Joe and Marcos recognize the senator immediately. The older man is surprised that she's out in public on the purge night and asks what happened. Charlie tells him that her opponent, the minister, has sent men to kill them and that the assassins are still after them. Suddenly, the car with fairy lights returns. The shoplifters have come back with buzzsaws and they have brought even more of their friends with them. them. Speaking through the store's cameras, these teenagers tell Joe that they're going to kill everyone inside and burn his deli to the ground. They're trapped, and with no other choice, Joe calls Lainey for help. When she doesn't pick up, he leaves her a message that their lives are in danger and she needs to come rescue them. The teenagers pull out buzzsaws and start to cut through the deli's doors. These thieves are totally insane and start dancing and singing in the street as they prepare to kill Joe and his friends. At that moment, Lainey arrives in her van. Stepping on the gas, she mows down two crazy teens on the road before getting out of the vehicle and shooting the others who are attacking the deli's front door. With the road clear, the survivors go outside and head for Lainey's car to take them to safety, but Joe is reluctant. He sees that more thieves are sawing through the deli's back door and wants to stay to defend his business. His assistant convinces him to leave, saying that his life is more important than the store and that protecting the senator is just as important. It convinces him and they leave the deli together. As the survivors travel to a safe place in Lainey's van, they spot a helicopter above. It's the assassin leader and his men. They open fire on the vehicle with a Gatling gun, killing the civilian who was receiving medical treatment inside. Acting quickly, the survivors manage to drive under a highway bridge and stay out of sight from the helicopter. They figure out that the men have managed to track them somehow, and Leo realizes that the bolt in his shoulder is a tracker. He uses the van's medical forceps to painfully pry it from his wound. Taking a look around, the survivors spot a group of tough men fighting for sport nearby using medieval weapons. These guys look like trouble, but they can't get away without the assassins spotting them from above. Things get even more dangerous when the fighters spot the van and surround it. The men start to pound on the doors violently and demand to be let in. That's when Joe gets a clever idea and whistles out a distinctive tune. This stops the gangsters in their tracks as they recognize it and whistle back. Joe shares that he used to be a part of the Crips gang many years ago and still knows their signals. Recognizing that the survivors aren't their enemy, the men stand by peacefully as they open the van doors. The leader comes to greet them carrying an injured man, asking that the survivors help save his friend. Okay, this is the luckiest break the survivors have had all night. This group of a dozen strong, coordinated men are about to owe them a favor. These men will likely be delighted to take out the assassins because the survivors will save their friend, and the men after Charlie are obvious scumbags with visible racist slogans on their clothes. Even better, the assassins have no idea that they have found the tracker or that these men exist. This means that they will not even expect that the tracker is showing anything other than the position of Leo and Charlie. If I were in Leo's shoes, I would use the fighters to lead the men on a long and difficult wild goose chase. I would give them the tracker bullet and tell them the enemy is tracking it by air. If the fighters stay under the cover of the highway bridge or use trees and buildings to block the helicopter's line of sight, the assassins will be forced to chase them on foot. This would only play into our hands because the fighters can take the tracker far away in one direction while I escape with the senator in the other way. Since the fighters are physically fit and know the city well, they can easily lead them on a chase for hours. When the assassins do catch up with them, they are in for a nasty surprise because the fighters outnumber them and have a whole cache of weapons at their disposal. It doesn't matter if not all the assassins are killed. The only aim here is to keep the senator alive till the purge is over, and it becomes too risky for the ruling party to commit a crime by trying to murder her again. Once Leo and Charlie slip away from the assassins, they can take full advantage of the senator's popularity. True to her values, Charlie lives in a poor neighborhood within walking distance of Joe's simple deli. Her continued empathy towards the working class is entirely different from Minister Owen's strong stance against them and has won her many fans. In fact, there is a nationwide movement of working class people in support of the senator and her beliefs. This means that it is very likely the residents of this neighborhood will be willing to help her if they encountered her on the street. By asking Joe or Lainey for advice on who is likely to help if approached, they can knock on the door of one of the area's residents. If they can find someone with a home who agrees with the cause and wants to protect Charlie too, Leo and Charlie can hide out in the resident's house for the rest of the night. It will be impossible for the assassins to track them down there because this resident has no known connection with the senator and, to the outside world, simply appears to be keeping to their house for the night as expected. Knowing his helicopter can't fly under the highway, the lead assassin sends his men after Leo and Charlie on foot. He sends them the location of the tracker and instructs them to capture the pair. Arriving at the coordinates, two men find the place empty and notice the tracker on the ground. Just then, a bunch of gangsters appear behind them. They have come to kill the men in exchange for the survivors doing them a favor and saving their friend. The lead assassin can only listen over his walkie-talkie as his men are gunned down with the fighters and realize he's been tricked. The survivors arrive at an underground triage center where injured victims of the purge and homeless people can hide out for the night. They meet the resistance leader, this man Dante, who has been speaking out and fighting against the new founding fathers for some time now. Speaking with Senator Rowe, Dante learns that his enemy is behind her attempted murder. The two disagree on how to defeat the new new founding fathers, with Charlie refusing to stoop to their level of violence, and Dante arguing that violence is the only way to get things done. With the senator now safe, the other survivors leave to return to the deli, while Leo stays behind to watch over Charlie. As he's looking around the facility, Leo spots a back room guarded by Dante's men. Sneaking inside the room, he sees blueprints and pictures of new founding father members on the wall. Just then, he is caught by Dante's men, and a fight quickly breaks out. Leo gets the upper hand and holds one of them hostage. The senator hears the commotion and walks in as Dante's lieutenant calms everyone down. She demands to know what is going on and spots the plans on the wall, figuring out that Dante and his men are going to kill Minister Owens at a church he will visit in a few hours. She is furious. She asks Dante's men to call their leader and tell him to call off the assassination. In the senator's mind, she can win the presidency fair and square and will not have her opponent's cause strengthened by making him a martyr. Dante's men refuse and tell her that it's too late to change the plan. Suddenly, Laney's friend walks into the room and warns them that trucks are approaching their underground facility. Even though the new founding fathers have no idea that the senator is there, they have sent an army here to kill Dante and will kidnap her if she doesn't leave. As the others prepare for a gun battle, Leo and Charlie escape out a back door. Walking along an alley, they trigger a tripwire and narrowly escape a giant blade trap that swings down inches from their heads. Calling Laney for help, they see her car pull up and quickly get inside, where Joe and Marcos have been waiting. With the 5 survivors reunited, the bodyguard asks Laney to drive out of the city entirely so they can lay low until the purge is over. Okay, the senator here is making no sense. Having Dante's group kill her opponent is not a bad thing, and certainly not something she needs to push back against so harshly. Many neighbors would have already seen that her house has blown up, and the bodies of her security team are all over the porch and roof. It will be clear to everyone that she's a victim too. The new founding fathers were the ones who publicly revoked the purge rules protecting government officials, which was aired on national TV across the whole country. Since this was an important broadcast involving life and death consequences for all residents, the public would have tuned in and have very clear evidence that the new founding fathers are the real reason both Senator Roan and Minister Owens were allowed to be targeted. They will be the ones the community will blame for Minister Owens' death. If any of the assassins survive the explosion, the police may even manage to question them and uncover that Minister Owens himself is responsible for the attacks in Charlie's house and the attempts to murder her. There are too many factors that can go right for the senator here that it isn't really worth any effort trying to save her opponent. In fact, Dante revealing that he's willing to do whatever it takes to ensure Charlie wins the election is a huge asset to her team. They have many trained men as well as intelligence on the opponent's strategy and movements. They are the perfect candidates to carry out the senator's business without having to get her hands dirty. If I were Leo here, I would work very closely with Dante to eliminate all threats to the senator. Even if they are caught, I would keep her out of it and make sure everything is traceable back to me, so Charlie's reputation is not damaged at all. Using what we know, we could feed Dante information about the group of assassins Minister Owens has hired. Dante's men have the resources to capture one of them and the resolve to use illegal, painful methods to get information out of the captive. In the best case scenario, this captive will be able to give us evidence that the new founding fathers are behind the plot to kill Senator Rowan. This concrete proof can be in the form of text messages, bank transactions, or emails that only the assassins would have, and that we need Dante's underhanded methods to get. This evidence can then be leaked to the press shortly before the election to ensure that the public turns against Minister Owens and throws their support behind Charlie. Once she's in power, she can decide for herself if she wants to keep Dante's crew around as her private army or throw them under the bus as scapegoats to cover our tracks. As the van speeds out of the city, it is suddenly crashed into by another car and flips over. The assassins have found them again. The men drag the senator out of the van and force her into their vehicle. Leo gives chase and fires at them as they drive away, but it's too late. The vehicle is armored and already halfway down the street. The assassins have successfully kidnapped their target. Thinking about why they didn't kill her on the spot, Leo realizes that Minister Owens must want to oversee her public execution personally at the church event. Seeing no other choice, he resolves to rescue her on his own. Joe, Marcos, and Lady insist on joining him because they believe in Charlie's cause and know that electing her president is their only hope of ending the purge forever. They gather the weapons they can and leave on foot to rescue her. At the church, the assassins tie Charlie up, dress her in a white robe, and deliver the woman to the new founding fathers. In the pews, a congregation of people have gathered for a special purge mass. Minister Owens gets on stage and gives a speech about how important it is for the new founding fathers to stay in power, insisting that the purge is too important to end because it purifies those who stands against them. He then reveals the first person to be purified, a junkie who wishes to make amends for his behavior. The man has been tied up and is wheeled onto stage. Minister Owens unveils a table full of weapons that have been cleansed in holy water and invites this creepy priest to the stage. This man is a longtime supporter of the new founding fathers and is overjoyed that Owens has given him the honor of killing the first victim. The priest takes a knife and approaches the tied up man before viciously stabbing him repeatedly while the crowd watches, cheering him on. As the helpless man dies, Charlie watches in horror, knowing that she's next. In the tunnels underneath the church, the other 4 survivors catch up with Dante and his men. The bodyguard reveals they know about the plot to kill Minister Owens and tell them that the senator has been kidnapped to this location too. Leo tells Dante that the priority now should be to rescue the senator and that the original plans to target Owens are not as important. Finally on the same page, they enter the church from the tunnels and start to sneak up some stairs into the main hall. On stage, the minister gives another speech and tells the congregation that he has a special guest. The priest wheels Charlie out and the minister lifts the veil over her face. The crowd is overjoyed, excited to see the woman they hate killed off for good, and erupt into applause. That's when the President of the United States is invited on stage, and the minister makes it clear he will be the one who gets to execute Charlie. They have no idea that the survivors have reached the upper level of the church and are working quietly to kill the few guards patrolling the area. They ready their weapons as they look down on the execution that is about to happen below. Okay, this is terrifying. The president himself is so corrupt that he would murder a political opponent on stage without any of his followers batting an eye. His presence here makes sense alongside the new information Leo has gathered, that the assassins were never trying to kill Charlie on the streets. They want to make a spectacle of her death in front of their followers. Someone as tactical and well-trained as Leo should have been prepared for this possibility. If I were Leo, I would have given the senator 2 things when we first escaped the house, in case we ever got separated. First, I would have sewn a tracker into the lining of the bulletproof vest we give her, so I'll be able to know her whereabouts at all times if we ever got separated. Next, I would give her a device no larger than a wallet, which can fit in her pocket. This would be a miniature version of the bomb that was planted in her office. This gives Charlie a last resort explosive that she can activate with the tap of her finger and use as a distraction or bargaining chip if she ever gets captured. If she activates it while around her kidnappers, they would recognize the beeping as an incoming explosion and run away from her. This gives her a chance to throw the device at them before it blows up and use the distance they've created to make a run for it. Even better, if Charlie is brought into the company of someone important to the new founding fathers, such as Minister Owens, she can threaten to blow them all up unless she is set free. These tactics work perfectly with the fact that they want her alive. The assassins are more likely to give in to her demands than kill her on the spot, or risk her blowing herself up in desperation. Leo's next problem is to figure out how to rescue the senator without risking her life. Since Minister Owens is there, it is very likely that security in the church will be very tight and heavily armed. He should avoid a gunfight at all costs, because Charlie could get killed in the crossfire. His best bet would be to catch a pair of followers in the streets as they're walking or driving up to the church. Then, he can steal the clothes of one follower and leave them as a hostage with Dante's men to force the other follower to bring him safely into the church as their invited guests. While this is a risk, there are easily over 100 followers in the church, and no one is paying any attention to them. Sneaking in this way is still far safer than starting a shootout. Once inside, he will be mere feet away from the senator and has a better shot of rescuing her. If the group thinks that Leo is too likely to be recognized, the plan can easily be replicated by one of Dante's men or one of the other survivors. So long as they look good in a suit, fit the demographic of new founding fathers followers, and can act posh, they will be able to pull it off. On stage, the president picks up a sharp blade and approaches Charlie, holding it to her throat. He tells her that her death will be the rebirth of the nation and brings the knife forward, drawing blood. Just then, Marco shoots him in the head with a rifle and kills the president of the United States on the spot. It's a shocking moment that takes everyone by surprise, and a vicious gunfight breaks out as the guards fire to the upper level while the congregation panics, running for safety. Suddenly, more guards enter the building, and the survivors try to return fire but are overwhelmed. They are forced to take cover behind the pews as the gunmen below mercilessly fire at them, but while they're hiding and unable to move, a new series of gunshots ring out. Then, everything goes silent. Peering out from their hiding spots, the survivors see that Dante and his men have killed all the guards and saved them. The survivors climb down to join them on the main floor and reunite with Charlie. She is shaken but unharmed. Gunshots continue to ring from other rooms in the building. Dante explains that his men are continuing to search the building in hopes of finding Minister Owens. Shortly after, Dante's soldiers tell them that they have found and captured Owens in a room on the basement level and are ready for him to execute the minister. Dante leaves to carry out this mission, but the survivors follow him to the lower level of the church. Senator Roan throws herself between Dante and the door, begging him not to execute Owens. The survivors and Dante's men have a tense standoff, with both sides drawing their weapons ready to shoot the other. Charlie pleads her case to to Dante, saying that they shouldn't use the same methods as the evil new founding fathers. She urges him not to make matters worse by making their enemy a martyr and winning him more support. She asks that he trust her to win the election on her own and change life for the better for all of them. Unconvinced, Dante enters the room anyway and prepares to kill Owens. He points his pistol at the minister's head and gets ready to pull the trigger. After a short pause, he realizes that he'd be giving him exactly what he wants and refuses to do it. Dante emerges from the room with Owens, still alive, and tells the senator that she better beat him in the elections. The survivors enter the next room where a bunch of people have been held hostage and start to untie them, while Dante's group enters the parking garage to find escape vehicles. Suddenly, they are ambushed by the remaining assassins. Dante is shot in the stomach and falls to the ground. Hearing the gunfire, the bodyguard rushes out to help him, but the resistance leader knows he's dying and tells Leo to cover him as he has one final move to make. As Leo distracts the enemies, Dante hotwires a car and crashes it into two of the men, crushing them against a wall. That's when the lead assassin shoots Dante in the chest, killing the reluctant hero instantly, meaning Leo is the only person to face off against him. Okay, this is terrifying. None of these people seem to realize that they have just killed the president. With him dead, there is now likely a power vacuum within the new founding fathers, with Minister Owens as the new face of the party. This is the survivor's best chance to expose the minister for the lunatic he really is, and take down the reputation of his entire party. The man is already yelling about murder and acting totally unhinged. If we put him in front of a video camera and talk about the dead president, or using the purge to commit murder, he will be a goldmine of crazy quotes that are totally out of line for the next president to say. With some clever editing, we can even turn his ranting about murdering Glee and others suffering into him celebrating the president's death, or being behind the murder. Once the purge is over, the footage of Minister Owens making a fool of himself can be broadcast to the public, causing them to lose all confidence in the new founding fathers ahead of the election. Even the parishioners will back up this version of events. From their perspective, Minister Owens led the president on stage, as his men invited the president to come forward and kill Charlie. Shortly after, the president was shot from the upper floor, where only the minister's guards were stationed. The whole chain of events can easily be spun into an assassination planned by the minister to seize all power for himself. Dante and his men also made a critical error in trying to escape through the garage. If they had spoken to Charlie first about how many more threats she spotted while held hostage, she would have told him that the assassins who kidnapped her, as well as the crazy priest who stabbed Amanda to death, are still on the loose. In addition, they saw from themselves that dozens of parishioners escaped the main hall when the gunfight broke out. These are people devoted enough to the evil cause that they celebrated the thought of the senator getting murdered. There are simply too many unknowns in play for anyone to be venturing to new rooms like the garage. Even if there was no one else inside, any reinforcements coming to help their enemy would be lying in wait outside the church for any vehicle exiting the church. What the new founding fathers and their army would have heard from the followers who escaped is that the president and Minister Owens were in the building when they were attacked. This means that they will be prepared to come in at full force to rescue their leaders. The survivors' best bet would be to retrace their steps and escape out the secret tunnels underneath the church which they entered through. In fact, Dante's team specifically reopened sealed tunnels for this mission, so none of the new founding fathers are even aware they exist. Leo and the lead assassin exchange gunfire, but they both quickly run out of bullets. The man pulls out a combat dagger and charges at Leo. With no other choice, the bodyguard takes out his own knife and goes to face down the man in hand-to-hand combat. Both men swipe each other many times and start to bleed badly, but despite being slashed across the chest and back, Leo manages to gain the upper hand. He stabs his opponent repeatedly before finishing the man off with a kick to the face, and the man slumps to the floor dead. Back in the basement room, one of the hostages freed by Charlie tries to run out in panic, but the door's opened by the creepy priest, and he's got a shotgun. He brutally shoots the man before entering the room and shooting Marcus in the shoulder. With his gun out of ammo, he takes out a pistol and aims it at his true target, Senator Rowan. Just before he can kill her, Joe jumps in front of her and the men shoot each other multiple times until the deli owner finally gets a lucky shot, blasting the insane priest in the head. The purger falls to the ground dead, and now they're finally safe. With that, the other survivors rush to Joe's side, but the man is already dying. He shares a nod of respect with Leo and tells his assistant Marcos to continue his legacy through his deli before drawing his final breath. 2 months later, the senator finishes casting her vote while back at the deli. Marcos watches the results of the presidential election and finds out that Charlie has won the race, officially making her the president of the United States. As her first order of business, she vows to end the annual purge for good and finally put a stop to the senseless violence once and for all. That's when Lainey visits him, and they are both happy to see that Charlie has won. As they return to their day, the news reports that some factions have begun to launch violent protests, unhappy that Senator Rowan has won, teaching America an important lesson. You can't please everyone. If you were trapped on Staten Island and murder was made legal for 12 hours, what would you do? People are going to be slaughtered and nowhere is safe to hide. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the experiment in the first purge. This woman is going to survive a massacre. Naya here watches a news report about an experiment that will be running on Staten Island called the Purge, where for one night, all crimes will be legal, including murder. It's sickening, and to make matters worse, they're offering $5,000 for anyone who volunteers. They've already set up application centers near their apartment building, and the woman warns her brother to leave the island before the experiment begins. After gathering her things, Naya leaves their home, but Isaiah here knows they're struggling to make ends meet, and he'll do whatever it takes to help his sister financially. Nearby the tower block, hundreds of people have gathered to apply for the experiment, and they're desperate for the money, but nearby, Naya here leads a protest against the Purge. She points out that the government is luring poor Americans and argues that they're trying to get them to kill each other. In a nearby neighborhood, Isaiah is working on a street and dealing dope to clients, when suddenly this crazy guy appears behind him. Scared, the kid tries to calm down and tells him to go away, but Skeletor here doesn't care. He can tell how terrified Isaiah is and mocks him for being a coward. The brother shoves him away, embarrassed to be called out, and the psychopath pulls out a razor blade from his mouth before attacking him. He quickly runs out of there just as the kid's friend comes to back him up and shoots his gun at the man. They quickly get out of there and leave, giving Isaiah an excuse to join the Purge. Meanwhile, this gang leader Dimitri gathers his crew and orders them to protect their territory during the Purge. All of their enemies might take the opportunity to attack them, and they need to be ready to kill anyone that makes a move on their turf. With that, the meeting is over and the gangsters head home, but soon their entire neighborhood will turn into a killing field. At the evaluation center, the brother Isaiah volunteers for the experiment, and the agent hands him a box. She explains that inside are special contact lenses that will record everything he sees, but they are only to be worn if he actively participates in the Purge, and promises him more money if he does. It gives the kid more reason to get revenge, and once he gets a tracking device implanted into his body, he'll officially be a test subject for the world's deadliest experiment. 1 hour before the Purge, the streets begin emptying and the bridge from Staten Island is closed off, leaving the community stranded from the rest of New York. This mother Louisa takes her daughter to a church where she meets up with Naya and this woman who welcomes them, reassuring her friend that they'll be safe here. The sister walks away to call her brother and asks if he got off the island. He lies, saying that he's in Brooklyn, and she believes him. Relieved, the woman hangs up the phone and Isaiah seizes the opportunity to put on the special contact lenses. He wants to purge and is determined to get revenge on Skeletor for humiliating him, but this kid will find out this was his biggest mistake. Okay, this kid is an idiot. An extremist party has announced that they're making all crime legal on his island, and now he wants to get revenge on a violent maniac. The problem is that this kid has no plan and no idea where his target is. It's not smart, but there still might be a good way to go about this. And that's why if it were me, I'd talk to some known enemies of Skeletor to get their support and or resources. A man like this must have a lot of enemies, and any one of them would be likely willing to pay for his head. If we get enough people paying for the same man's death, we can use this opportunity to not only get revenge, but be lifted out of poverty to do it. We need to make sure we know where the man is before the purge begins. This puts us at a strategic advantage because we won't have to risk our lives searching for him on the one day crime is legal, and we can plan the killing so we're in control. It wouldn't even be that hard to find him if he knew about geographic profiling. This is a scientific methodology that analyzes the locations of connected serial killers to figure out where criminals most likely live, and we can use this by narrowing down our search by taking everything we know about the situation, just like the FBI does. Now, obviously we don't have the resources those agencies have, but we can still use the same basic principles by searching local crimes from our computer, and use the data to track his methods, giving us a head start to find his general location. We know he's been operating as Skeletor for at least 2 years, and it would be pretty hard to miss this lunatic, as his facial scars alone would make it impossible for him to blend in normally. Based on his erratic behavior and goals, we know he's absolutely unhinged, which makes it very unlikely he can keep a job. He might not even have a permanent address, and it would be extremely unlikely that this man would be clear-headed enough to follow a daily routine. However, we know he's violent and unstable, and he must be getting money for his drugs from somewhere. With this in mind, I would look for patterns of hyper-violent crimes with property or cash missing. This information should allow us to figure out where he hunts for targets and spends his time. We can then exploit those patterns to find him, make a plan, and take the fight to him on our terms. If Isaiah had thought to do any of this, he could have had his revenge while minimizing risks, and avoided running around in the open with no plan during the purge. That night, everyone across the city watches the president announce the start of the experiment, and wishes the volunteers good luck. That's when a PSA warns them that they're authorized to use Class 4 weapons, and makes it clear that during the purge, all crimes will be legal for 12 hours, including murder. With those last words, an alarm starts blaring across the island, and the purge has officially begun. Leaving his apartment, Isaiah steps outside and notices a drone hovering overhead. It must be the government keeping tabs on the experiment, and the guy heads out to hunt down his prey, terrified that he might be killed. Meanwhile, the man is trying to pry open an ATM to steal some money, but that's when Skeletor suddenly appears behind him and stabs the guy in the chest. The psychopath starts bragging to the people running the experiment that he's made the first kill of the night, and his bloodbath won't stop anytime soon. Across town, the gang leader calls his colleague Zoe to check up on their operations, and the guy reveals that one of the gang members, Capital A, disobeyed orders. He's gone out to purge, but Zoe has some good news. Someone has sent escorts to keep him company, but the man doesn't care. Dimitri here wants to make sure his crew survives, and knows things will only get worse as the night goes on. Meanwhile, Isaiah cuts through an alley when he notices that there are dolls and cans of fuel scattered across the area. It's strange, and the man picks one up when he hears people laughing at him. On a fire escape are two women wearing the contact lenses, and he flips the teddy bear over, realizing it's a remote-controlled bomb. This whole alley is a trap, and he runs straight through, narrowly avoiding the exploding dolls. He walks through the streets searching for his target as the shopkeepers tell him to back off, but that's when he sees two cars pulling up. A group of gangsters walk out of the vehicles, and this guy, Capital A, tells the old man that he's here to purge. Throwing a brick through the window, the gang members head inside, and Isaiah decides to walk away, but is surprised by another group of gangsters. Terrified, he pulls out his gun, but that's when one of them recognizes him, and he realizes it's one of Dimitri's men. The guy notices the kid is wearing contact lenses and figures out he's looking to get revenge on Skeletor. It's embarrassing how right he is, and the man invites him to a party down the block, suggesting that they might find the psychopath there. The kid agrees and goes with the gangsters, following them to a street filled with people. They've all gathered to have fun instead of killing or committing crimes, but soon this party is going to become a massacre. That's when Isaiah notices everyone starts pulling out their phones, whispering about a horrific video, and sees a recording that's been released to the public. It's shocking to watch the first kill of the night, but that reminds him why he joined the experiment. The gangsters warn the kid that the psychopath is dangerous, but he doesn't care and walks away, leaving his friends behind. Isaiah doesn't realize the killer has just found the partygoers and is about to go on a murder spree. Okay, looking for Skeletor at a party isn't a terrible idea. We know that he's a violent killer with few resources, and that he wants attention for his crimes. Killing unarmed people at a party is exactly what he would do. That being said, this kid just witnessed a horrific murder at the hands of the psycho he's hunting, and if he's not careful, he'll end up the second murder of the night. With that in mind, leaving his friends at a crowded party to look for this guy is a great way to lose a kidney. In a crowded place like this, he has no plan for what to do if he actually finds Skeletor. Firing his weapon into the crowd will kill innocent people. He saw the video of the first purge kill moments earlier and knows that Skeletor prefers melee weapons based on his previous encounters with him, which means in this crowded party, Skeletor has another major advantage. With a little bit of forethought, he could have had a much easier time finding Skeletor and put himself in a much better position to be able to do something with that information. If he really thought Skeletor would be here, he should have asked the people at the edges of the party if they had seen him. If no one in the immediate area has spotted the man, then he probably isn't there, and if they had, then we would know where to start looking. He also could have found some high ground and surveyed the scene from up above. Any of the trees or low roofs are fair game, and a parkour wall climb would make this easy and fast. Now, he would need to be extra careful climbing onto the roof of the house, as he would be exposed, so he could have a friend watch his back, or go around and climb from outside the party. Skeletor doesn't blend in, and wouldn't be too hard to spot from high ground. It's also important to think about the fact that everything he does is currently being recorded and shown on the news, so how he acts in this situation matters. If he follows through, then he's going to lock himself into being a criminal for the rest of his life, because people tend to think twice about hiring someone who's been on TV for murder even during the purge. If he hasn't already been hired to kill the man, then he could still walk away and live a normal life. Across town, the gang leader welcomes these escorts to his penthouse and gets himself ready for their company, but he knows something isn't right. Walking out of the bathroom, the man approaches the women and they start to seduce him. He doesn't seem to notice that the girl behind him pulls a knife out of the pool table, and she tries to stab the gangster, but he quickly turns around, stopping her at the last second. The other woman slashes him across the back, and the man gets kicked across the room. Dimitri realizes they must have been sent to assassinate him and brutally fights them off. He manages to overpower them both and knocks them to the floor, demanding to know who hired them. That's when they reveal that it was Capital A, the gang member who went out purging, and betrayed him. Meanwhile, Skeletor walks around the party looking for his next victim when a girl starts dancing with him. She spins around to face the man, and the psycho takes the opportunity to viciously jam his knife into her body. Everyone around them is too busy partying to notice until he begins stabbing a man several times, making them realize that someone is purging. Terrified, the whole crowd runs away and scatters, but suddenly he hears someone cock a gun. Turning around, the killer sees it's Isaiah and dares him to pull the trigger, but he can't. Acting quickly, the psycho slaps the gun out of his hand and the kid runs away. He didn't have the guts to shoot, and now the killer is going to hunt him down until one of them finally dies. Searching for a place to hide, the brother enters an abandoned warehouse and sees a group of purgers smoking up, but then they spot him. He runs away as fast as he can, but slips and falls to the ground. The kid gets back to his feet and finds a room to hide in, but there's a problem. When he fell, Isaiah cut his leg and the purgers are still looking for him. That's when his sister calls, and he answers, revealing that he's hiding in a warehouse on Staten Island. Worried, the woman immediately heads out to go find him and sneaks through the streets, making sure not to get caught. Suddenly, a wire slips around her ankle and pulls her off balance. The woman crashes to the ground and is dragged towards a metal grate where a purger tries to reel her in. Terrified, the woman pulls out a can of pepper spray and shoots it straight in his eyes, forcing the man to let go. She immediately runs off to the warehouse Isaiah is hiding in and sends him a message, letting the kid know she's here. Okay, this went horribly wrong really fast, and it all comes down to one major mistake. He was way too close to the psycho. Isaiah announced his presence with a click of his gun and stood close enough to a crazed lunatic to smell his breath. He couldn't have gone about this in a worse way even if he tried. Now, this is where our earlier strategy would really shine, because if Isaiah was on the roof of one of these buildings when the crowd dispersed, then Skeletor would have to run towards a man with a gun and climb onto the roof before he could be in range to use his weapon. Either way, he was too close. The whole point of a gun is that you can kill someone far enough away that they can't reach you. If he gave himself more distance and time, it would have been a lot easier to stay composed and pull the trigger, getting multiple tries to get it right. This psycho is terrifying, so if it were me, I'd want as much distance between the two of us as I can get to make the shot. Now, there's another approach here that could work to our advantage, and that's if we set this up to trap the criminal from the beginning. If Isaiah had coordinated with Skeletor's enemies and promised to bring him to them, we can expect anyone with a vendetta might be willing to help, as long as they know they can get away with it. We might even be able to make a profit by telling them we'll deliver their enemy for a small finder's fee, and the whole thing would have made a lot more sense given the risks involved. Demonstrating panicked or cowardly behavior could instead be used to lure this psycho into a pre-designated kill zone with his enemies lying in wait to take the man out. It's a win-win, but instead, Isaiah here had no idea where he's going and runs straight into a building with no clue if there's another way out. He could have easily backed himself into a corner or run right into a different group of purgers. If he had run Skeletor into a group of his gang buddies, we might look like cowards to them, but there's a good chance they'll kill him for us. I should also point out that removing the glowing contacts was a good idea, but it came far too late. Honestly, there isn't enough money you could pay me to put on a tracking device and have me wear these things. But he should have taken the contacts out as soon as he realized he didn't have the nerve to kill this guy. The reason is because when you're running and hiding from a psycho with glowing blue eyes, it's a great way to give your pursuer a heads up to where you are. If he had coordinated with Skeletor's other enemies, he could have had backup or even an entire team working alongside him. They could have set up a false retreat on Isaiah's end, then lured Skeletor into this building with enemies lying in wait, then blocked off the exit. They could have him trapped and killed, and there wouldn't be anything he can do to escape. Meanwhile, her brother is still in the room when a purger walks by and looks through the window searching for him. Thinking quickly, the kid closes his eyes so the man doesn't see his glowing contacts, and luckily, the purger walks off. He wasn't spotted, and Isaiah takes out the lenses, realizing that they make it too easy for someone to see him. The kid leaves his hiding spot and peeks through a window to check if the coast is clear, but that's when he sees Skeletor holding his sister hostage. The psycho wants to hurt his next victim and is about to slit her throat, but that was his biggest mistake. Isaiah suddenly comes running out of the building and jams a glass shard straight into his back. He lets go of Naya, and the two siblings quickly get out of there as the killer tries to pull the shard out. In another part of town, the gangster Capital A meets with the escorts he hired, thinking they've assassinated the gang leader, but that's when Dimitri's men come out of hiding. They've surrounded the traitors with weapons pointed to their heads, and the leader walks up to the purger, making it clear that he's going to die. Without hesitation, he takes a gun and executes the man on the spot. It's cold-blooded, and the guy walks away as his men finish off the other traitors. Making their way to the church, the siblings walk through the streets, and the brother apologizes to his sister sister for lying. The woman understands that he's frustrated that they're poor and promises to help him get out of the gang life. But that's when a man in a raincoat approaches them. They back away as he holds the siblings up at gunpoint and beg him to leave them alone, but he refuses. Suddenly, the man fires his weapon, spraying them with water, and runs away. They were just pranked with a water gun, but soon the bodies are going to pile up. The siblings continue walking through the streets when they hear bikers in the distance. They quickly hide behind a pot as these purgers race past them, but it's strange. They're nothing like the people they've seen, and soon they'll discover firsthand how brutal these purgers can be. On another street, Dimitri and his gang are driving down the road when a flaming truck crashes straight into them. The gang leader wakes up inside the flipped-over car as armed men start shooting up his escort vehicle with high-powered weapons. He knows that there's more to these guys than meets the eyes, and the man crawls out of the vehicle, deciding to take matters into his own hands. Dimitri kills one of the purgers from behind and steals his rifle, using it to shoot down the others. With the gunman dealt with, he calls one of his gang members and tells him to bring the whole crew over here. Okay, this is what happens when you're distracted on the road, and if these guys were paying attention, this could have been easily avoided. That being said, this might have actually been a good thing, because Dimitri has now learned that trained mercenaries were hired to make this whole purge look like a complete success. The NFFA is clearly willing to do whatever it takes to make their twisted version of America a reality, and that would be all I would need to decide they needed to be stopped at all costs. The purge was a terrible idea from the start, and there's way too many loopholes waiting for people to exploit. Eventually, everyone will be trying to solve their life problems with murder, and society is going to completely collapse as a result. What's even worse about the purge is that it's not even doing what it's supposed to. It's very unlikely this is going to reduce crime for the rest of the year, and we need to form a multi-pronged strategy to end the NFFA before they get too powerful to stop. If it were me, I would start recording the gunfight and then explain to the camera how I knew these men were mercenaries, recording some of the radio chatter to prove my point. I'd talk to the camera as I went and keep as much transparency as I could at the beginning of all this. I would want to inform the public and get my message out there as quickly as possible without compromising my team's position, but timing is key here. Now that they're all dead, he should have taken the time to search the bodies for any ID or clues that might tell us where they came from. And if we're lucky, then we can destroy the NFFA's credibility and end the purge forever. Obviously, he should also loot the bodies because they won't be needing it anymore. Dimitri takes one of the walkie-talkies, and that's the most important thing he could have done because it gives him an information advantage that will be crucial for winning the war. Now, he can hear all the radio chatter from his enemies and can figure out where they are or what they plan to do next. As clever as this was, he missed a huge opportunity to get some hard evidence for his case. He should have started recording the radio chatter from the walkie-talkies first, before sending them to every news agency in the country. After he set that up, it's time we take the fight to them instead and use every trick and resource we have to win. Meanwhile, the siblings almost reach the church, but they're horrified to see that the bikers have already ransacked it and killed the innocent people inside. The sister can't believe anyone could be so cruel, and once the purgers leave, the siblings go to see if anyone survived. They're walking up the stairs when suddenly the mother Luisa comes out of hiding with her daughter. Relieved, Naya asks what happened, and the woman explains that the purgers shot up the entire congregation without mercy. She only managed to survive by playing dead, and the sister demands if her neighbor Dolores also survived, but the mother doesn't know. The brother tries calling the woman, but her phone is off, and that's when they hear gunfire in the distance. With the streets getting too dangerous, the survivors head to the siblings' apartment for safety, but soon they'll find out it's a death trap. Out on the road, Dimitri and his gang check the dead bodies of the purgers, discovering that they all have the same tattoo. The design is only worn by mercenaries for hire, and it's a sign that the government is interfering with the experiment. They find a headset, and hear someone report that a squad has finished killing people on a nearby street. The gangsters head over there and take a look around at the bodies, but it's horrible. The soldiers have shown no mercy to any of their victims, and that makes Dimitri furious. One of his men insists they should get back home for safety, but he makes it clear they're going to hunt down these death squads. At the tower block apartment, the survivors head for the entrance when a purger attacks them with a machete. The sister narrowly avoids getting sliced apart, and Isaiah distracts the man so the women can get to safety. Thinking quickly, he rolls into this construction site and protects himself using the metal beams, pushing one straight into the purger's head. He quickly makes a break for it, sprinting as fast as he can, and his sister locks the door, stopping the killer from breaking in. The survivors take shelter in the siblings' apartment and catch their breaths. Turning on the TV, they watch a news report announcing announcing the purge will end in 2 hours, but the brutal carnage outside isn't slowing down. It's shocking to see. But that's when the mother notices bloodstains on the floor and begins to panic. Naya reassures her that it's nothing to worry about and speaks to her in private, telling the woman they will survive. It's what she needed to hear, but soon this building will become a tomb. At the gang's hideout, Dimitri and his lieutenants start grabbing weapons, arming themselves for the fight to come. He tells his crew that the government sent the mercenaries and is using this experiment to kill off the poor. The man refuses to let them kill any more of his people, and with all their weapons gathered, the gang goes to war. Okay, since we don't know how many there are or how well they've been trained, approaching this wrong means the gang could get themselves killed if they aren't careful. We don't know what the mercenaries are capable of if they decide to assemble their forces and take the gang down. But if Dimitri plays his cards right, he's got several huge advantages here. Dimitri's advantages all come down to one thing: information. The mercenaries have no idea they're under attack, and the longer Dimitri can keep it that way, the better. It's also worth pointing out that the mercenaries also don't know the lay of the land. These soldiers were taken from all over the country, which means that most of them have probably never seen Staten Island before today, whereas Dimitri's men have been here for a long time and will easily be able to navigate the back streets. Finally, we have the walkie-talkie. It may not seem like much, but with this one thing, they can listen to all the mercenaries' radio chatter, which means they know where they'll be, when, and what's going on. They will also be able to know if the enemy realizes there's something wrong. Lastly, they can use the radios to call people in for backup and lure them into traps. They also have some explosives that will come into play to even the playing fields in a major way. This all sets us up to use guerrilla tactics in a big way, and the great news is, history is full of examples where this style of warfare has been effective in dense urban environments. The reason is because there's plenty of cover and maneuvering large forces becomes nearly impossible in the thick urban jungle. Luckily for us, the defender has the advantage in this situation, and we can take some notes from SAS officers who are one of the best counter-terrorist special forces units. For example, we can lure insurgent gunmen into ambushes and use apparently unnamed SAS officers as the bait. They've also been known to raise groups of surrendered enemy fighters and provide aid to victims along the way to help the locals. With this in mind, we can follow their example by providing aid to local victims and garner even more support while moving quickly to act on new intelligence, hitting hard before disappearing again. Finally, we can use their growing knowledge of our threat against them, and by developing a social media campaign that starts to take root, more citizens will stand up to help us stop the NFFA mercenaries. Back in the apartment, the group hears the woman Dolores knock on the door, and the brother lets her in. She managed to survive the church massacre, and the woman starts complaining about everything she faced getting back here, making the survivors laugh. They're all relieved their friends will live to see another day, but that's when the siblings take a look outside. Fires have been set throughout Staten Island, and it's a brutal reminder that the purge isn't over yet. In another part of the city, these survivors are being attacked by the government death squads, but they're getting slaughtered and running out of ammo. It's clear they have no hope of getting out of this alive, but they refuse to go down without a fight. This old guy starts handing them weapons, and they wait for the soldiers to come into the building, guns blazing, but someone throws a smoke bomb. Suddenly, the death squad is attacked by Dimitri and his gang, brutally killing them one by one. With the mercenaries dead, they greet the other survivors and give them guns for protection, but that's when a voice reports on the headset the soldiers are gathering at the housing projects. It's clear the government is trying to take out as many people before the purge ends, and they need to get over there as soon as possible. Back at the apartment, the survivors look out the window and they're horrified to see a convoy of vehicles heading straight for them. On the streets below, Dimitri arrives with his gang, and he starts organizing his men so they can attack the mercenaries. But that's when this guy notices drones flying overhead. The machines suddenly start firing at the men, and the gang leader gets pushed under the car by his friend. It's a brutal execution, and there's nothing he can do to save the others. When the shooting finally stops, he crawls out to check on the gang members, and all of them are dead except for one. This guy is barely clinging on to life, and tells Dimitri to head for the towers before it's too late. Meanwhile, in the apartment, Naya and the others realize the people invading their tower block aren't just purgers, but a dangerous militia. They're coming in from all sides, and the woman tells them they have no choice but to stay here. That's when she gets a call from Dimitri, who warns her that these soldiers will kill everyone on each floor, and she needs to hide, reassuring her that he'll be coming. With that, he hangs up the phone and walks into the building, determined to rescue his friends. Inside, he carefully makes his way through hallways filled with dead bodies, and follows after the death squad. On one of the floors, the man finds a power box and comes up with a clever plan. He shuts off the electricity throughout the entire building and uses the flashing emergency lights to brutally ambush the soldiers. Okay, first of all, if Naya had thought fast, she could have kept her apartment safe by taking the fight to them before they even made it into the building. They knew these guys were coming in to kill people, and the only thing they thought to do with that information was to hide and get out a weapon. The truth is, with a couple of Molotov cocktails, she could have seriously injured or killed some of them and bought enough time for her Super X to come in and save the day. Now, while Dimitri's plan to kill the power is pretty good, I think he could have done better. This strategy doesn't immediately stop the mercenaries from killing innocent people, and is likely to cause casualties along the way. He needs to get them out of the building in a hurry so that he can fight on his terms and put an end to the casualties as soon as possible. He could have saved far more lives and killed all of them in a single debilitating blow with way less risk to himself if he had lured them out and taken the time to set a trap. The plan we're about to use is shockingly similar to the tactics used by Oda Nobunaga and the Battle of Okehazama. He was severely outnumbered by a warlord by the name of Imagawa Yoshimoto, who wanted to trample through his clan to attempt to take over the capital. Oda was outnumbered 10-1 and managed to defeat the enemy army by making it look like his army was stationed in Zenshoji, a fortified temple, by setting up war flags and banners. He then maneuvered his army around a hill under the cover of bad weather and attacked Yoshimoto's war camp while his men still thought they were miles away. This one battle changed the landscape of Japan forever, and we can use a similar tactic here to destroy their assaulting mercenaries and secure the region. If it were me, I would first call an emergency backup on the radio close enough to get them to respond, and far enough to give him the time needed to set up the explosives and strap them to some half-full containers of gasoline. Then, I'd make it look like there are armed people inside. When they approach, we would fire off some shots to sell the danger of the situation and hit the detonator as they run inside to save their teammates. That way, the largest group will be taken out, and after we've cleaned the streets of the majority of the smaller groups, we will have saved as many lives as possible. But I wouldn't stop here. If the NFFA thinks they can take advantage of the Forgotten Borough, then they have another thing coming. If I had definitive proof they hired mercenaries, I'd continue down the warpath and move swiftly to end the conflict as quickly as possible over the next few months. The people of Staten Islanders are tough and tight-knit, the perfect people to have when starting a full-blown rebellion against a country that's actually trying to get you killed. After tonight, I'd be surprised if more than a handful of people stayed on their side, and with our information campaign, conscripting soldiers for our revolution won't be hard. We should also consider looking to Sun Tzu by setting up a command center for Dimitri to get up-to-date information regarding the landscape of the war, creating a living body of intelligence for him to base decisions on and issue orders. That way, he can start to control a larger force as it develops, and later on, employ the use of spies to infiltrate the NFFA and disrupt it from within. With some good old-fashioned warfare and espionage, we can use this night to launch a grassroots campaign that will change the trajectory of the entire United States. Meanwhile, Naya and the others barricade the bedroom door with furniture before searching for weapons. They find a revolver with 5 bullets left and a couple of knives, but the soldiers are going to be there soon. It's terrifying, and the sister then tells the mother to hide in the closet with her daughter, while the others ambush the death squad. With the plan set, they quickly hide, and that's when the mercenaries burst into the room searching for more victims. The sister starts shooting at them in the legs, and the men fall to the floor where the other survivors quickly stab them to death. It's brutal, and another soldier enters the room, but he's suddenly shot in the head. To the siblings' relief, Dimitri has saved their lives, and he warns them all to hide in the closet. He knows more mercenaries are coming their way, and won't let them risk their lives, but Naya refuses. She'll do whatever it takes to help him, and that's when the soldiers enter the apartment. Looking around the corner, Dimitri spots them aiming their weapons and tackles the woman to the floor as the death squad begins firing. They're being boxed in with no way to escape, but the man has an idea. Handing Naya an explosive, he takes cover next to the door and uses a mirror to see what the soldiers are doing. Suddenly, the psychopath Skeletor walks into the apartment and attacks the soldiers. He survived being stabbed and distracts him for long enough that the sister can throw the explosive down the hall. The gang leader stands up so he can shoot it and gets shot in the stomach, but manages to set off the bomb. It blows up, burning the death squad to a crisp, and Dimitri quickly takes cover, protecting them from the blast with a mattress. The group has managed to survive the night and begin to make their way out of the apartment, but then they hear an alarm blaring in the distance. The experiment is over, but they have no idea that the purge is going to keep on going until the series stops making money. If you were stuck in a country where bloodthirsty revolutionaries have toppled the government and are hunting down anyone that gets in their way, what would you do? America is in complete anarchy, and if you don't escape the country, you'll never make it out alive. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the purgers in Forever Purge. America is about to be destroyed. Juan and his wife Adela are riding a bus to a group shelter, where they wait out the country's most violent day of the year. For 12 hours, all crimes are legalized, and if anyone is caught outside while it happens, they're guaranteed to get murdered. The couple and their friend arrive at the shelter to find a bunker full of some of the poorest people in the area. Walking inside, the couple here notice an emergency broadcast has started playing on the TV, and the others gather around to listen as they're told that the purge is about to start. During this time, all emergency services will not be available, and with that, an alarm rings out, signaling that the purge has officially begun. Throughout the city, people start to celebrate as they brutally slaughter each other, leaving bodies all over town. It's absolute carnage, and the couple wait nervously in the shelter, but after 12 long hours, an alarm starts blaring to signal the end of the purge. The shutters open, and everyone inside starts cheering. They think they're all safe, but they have no idea that this purge will be unlike any they've ever seen. Later that day, Adela here arrives at her workplace, but notices several of her co-workers are missing. Curious, she goes outside hoping to find them, but discovers a cage in the middle of the alley with a goat inside. Trying to free the animal, she reaches in and manages to pull the release lever, but it's a trap. Suddenly, these bars shoot up, locking her in place, and she's flipped over on top of the cage. Two purgers wearing rabbit costumes come out of a dumpster, and she begs them for help, but one of the men tells her that this is the forever purge. No one can stop it, and it's just getting started. Okay, of course this was a trap. This is an urban environment, and people don't just leave their goats inside 300-pound cages in the middle of the city. It's completely outside of its natural environment, and that's why setting this goat free is the stupidest thing she could possibly do. As soon as it's released, it's going to wander around and eventually cross a busy street where it will be run over by a car. This woman is also right in the middle of her work shift, only 2 hours after the purge has ended. That means even if she managed to save this goat, she had no plan on what to do next. This woman spent plenty of time inspecting the cage, but looking at this chain on the side, it's not hard to figure out how this thing is designed. The lever pulls on the chain, which rotates the gear and swings the door forward. She should have realized that standing right in front of the gate while you try to open it is a pretty f***ing bad idea, and with that kind of brain activity, it's no wonder she fell for this trap. Now, you might be thinking that Adela here should have no reason to suspect this would happen. The purge is over, and nobody's allowed to murder anyone after 7 a.m., but she really should have known better. If you look here at the TV screen, you'll see that one of the headlines is about a man who was arrested for celebrating the purge too early. When you let 330 million people kill each other every year, there must be thousands of cases where people don't follow the rules. As you can see in the background, there are no policemen or military out in the streets, and all services are concentrated on cleaning up the bodies from the city, so it wouldn't be hard for a bunch of drunk purgers to keep killing the next day. Now, as for this trap, what's disappointing here is that the woman didn't even try to escape. If you look here along the steel poles, there aren't any holes along the sides that would tell us there's a locking mechanism that's keeping her pinned down. If she had just tried pushing up on the metal bar here, she might have been able to get out and roll off of the opposite side of the cage. And since she didn't close the shutters to her workplace, she could easily run back inside to find help. Adela here is completely helpless, but that's when someone sneaks up and attacks the purgers from behind. It's her boss, and the man fights one of them with a metal pipe before he brutally caves his head in. Running up to save her, he lifts the bars off her neck and frees her from the cage, but he's suddenly attacked by the second purger, who throws him against the wall. Adela here grabs the man from behind, dragging his head directly beneath the spike trap, and her boss activates it, killing the purger on the spot. They've managed to survive, but their day is about to get a lot worse. The police arrive at the scene with their guns drawn, thinking that they just killed 2 innocent people. Arresting them, they're taken into police custody, while their co-worker watches nervously in the background. Meanwhile, her husband Juan and his friend Titi arrive at the branch where they work. But when they see the horses running free, they realize something is wrong. Getting out of the car, the men head to the house where they can hear someone talking. Looking around the corner, Juan here sees a group of purgers and realizes they're about to execute his employer along with his entire family. The leader here takes off his mask and tells them that there's going to be a revolution. The purge will never end, and the rich must now pay for their crimes. It's a hell of a speech, but he never notices that behind them, the immigrants have their guns drawn and are getting into position. Noticing the workers, the old man creates a distraction and accuses the leader of being a hypocrite, pointing out that by continuing the purge, they're just supporting a system designed to eliminate people just like him. Losing his temper, the leader has heard enough and shoots the old man in the head, but that's when Juan and his friend come out to attack. Rushing forward, they take the purgers completely by surprise, killing their leader as the rest of them retreat into the house. The worker here unties the rest of the family to set them free, but they're not safe here. With gunfire echoing the distance, the group sees trucks full of purgers on their way to the ranch, and the survivors have no choice but to leave. They sprint for a Mack truck parked nearby, and all of them get inside, driving out of there before the purgers can gun them down. Okay, This situation could have gone a lot worse, because everyone managed to survive except for this old guy, but the truth is, they're better off without him. This man was literally saying that he speaks for the whole family when he told the purger to go f himself. Talking like this is just going to get everyone killed faster, and if I was this cowboy here, I'd tell the purger to shoot this man just to shut him up. The truth is, if he wanted to stall for time, an FBI hostage negotiator would tell you that it's better to get them talking about themselves. If you look at the situation, it's immediately clear that this guy wants to talk. He's lined up the whole family and given them a long speech about inequality and economic oppression. To him, this is an ideological battle, and that means what he really wants is to be understood. Now, this might sound far-fetched, but it's a proven tactic with real science to back it up. Mirror neurons are one of the most important discoveries in the last decade of neuroscience, because experts have discovered that they control a wide range of involuntary human behavior. If we can engage this guy's mirror neurons by appearing to be understanding and likable, we just might be able to survive, because there's tons of scientific evidence that emotions are intertwined in all of our decisions. Even Wall Street traders use this to make million-dollar deals every day. This concept is used very effectively as a tool that hostage negotiators call tactical empathy, and it's exactly what we should be using to create a better distraction. Right now, all we need to do is stall for more time because the workers are already behind them and waiting for the chance to strike. The only reason this man was shot was because he told them to f off. So I would have encouraged the man to continue talking by repeating his points back to him as a sign that I'm paying attention. This would have been a much better distraction, and Juan here would have had more time to sneak up for a better attack to save everyone. The group heads into town and turns on the radio to find out that violence has broken out across the country. An army of revolutionaries are killing everyone in an endless purge, and it's absolutely horrifying. That's when this man gets a call with news that his wife has just been arrested and is headed to the police station. The group drives to the suburbs and find that the roads are blocked, but Juan tells them he can walk to the station by himself. The cowboy agrees to wait here until he gets back, and the group splits up, with Juan leading the others to find his wife. After the other survivors leave, the cowboy looks in the mirror, noticing a masked man walking by, and he suddenly realizes that they're both in danger. He gives his wife a gun for protection, telling her to lock the doors, and goes outside to hunt the purgers. All of a sudden, the masked man appears at the window, startling the woman, and he tries to break in, but at the last second, her husband guns him down. That's when another purger attacks him from behind, but luckily, he manages to fight him off before swinging a sledgehammer straight into the maniac's head. Meanwhile, Adela and her boss are stuck in the back of a police van with two other purgers. They race through the streets trying to avoid the chaos, and the cops call for backup, but it's too late. Someone fires an RPG at them, killing the policemen and sending the van spinning out of control. It lands in the middle of the street where chaos has broken out, but inside the van, Adela here has survived the crash. Suddenly, the doors open, and her husband Juan is standing on the other side. Relieved he's still alive, she gets out of the van and they run across the road as the Mack truck pulls up beside them. The group gets in and leaves the burning city behind, but they'll soon discover that this purge is much bigger than they could ever imagine. Okay, this is absolutely terrifying, because if the whole country looks just like this, then driving around in a truck is going to get us killed. We need to find the closest place that's safe enough to hide, and for me, that would be this guy's house. The cowboy literally has a ranch on the outskirts of town with the best security system money can buy. It's managed to survive the purge every single year and is designed to keep out small raiding parties just like this. It's no guarantee, but right now everything is a risk, and I'd much rather fight to protect a fortified home than to wander the streets during an endless purge. Now, it's important to point out that all of these problems could have been completely avoided if you just left the country. This cowboy is clearly wealthy, and with that kind of money, there's no good reason he should stay in America during the purge. But this is not an option for the majority of people. The purpose of the purge is to target economically disadvantaged citizens, and most of them won't have access to a bunker or be able to afford a death-free vacation every year. Plane tickets on Purge Day would be priced ridiculously high, and every road out of the country would have millions of Americans attempting to leave at the same time. The poorest people would be stranded and just had to find a way to survive. This cowboy is not one of those people, and if he had thought ahead to protect his family, he wouldn't even be in this situation. Now earlier, this man was brave enough to get out of his truck to go and hunt down the purgers, and when I say brave, I mean stupid. He didn't need to go outside at all, because this beast of a vehicle is no match for two stray purgers, and it's much safer to wait inside. If you look down the street here, you can tell there's nothing else going on in this part of town, so it would have made a lot more sense to drive around the block and circle back when the purgers leave.
Now, if he had to get out of the car, this man found the worst possible way to protect himself. When he steps outside, he didn't consider that the sound of him opening and closing the door will be heard by the Purgers, so they'll know exactly where he is and what he's doing. If I were him, I would have looked under the truck to see their feet, and that way I'll know their exact positions on the other side of the vehicle. There's not very much vertical space here between the ground and the truck, but it might be enough to shoot at their legs and injure them. This was a technique that was famously used by SWAT team member Donnie Anderson in the 1997 North Hollywood shootout, where the cop managed to shoot a bank robber who was hiding behind a car. Now, if the truck is too low to the ground and we can't see the Purger's feet, instead of walking around the truck like this guy, I would walk away from it. Since the threats can only come from two sides, putting distance between yourself and the vehicle will make the field of view much more narrow, and you'll be able to see both positions in a single glance. When they come around the corner, you'll be able to react more quickly, and that's way better than what this man is doing. Later that day, the group stops at a motel to scavenge for supplies, when a breaking news headline appears on the TV reporting that the entire United States is under martial law and soldiers will be sent into every city to deal with the Purgers. Outside, the immigrant tries to make a call, but can't get any phone signal and tells the cowboy that the cell towers are being cut down. His wife Adela walks up to them and tells the men that cities everywhere are being overrun by Purgers. There's no place left in America that's safe for them to go, and no way to get help. Back inside, the cowboy's sister finds a Purge flag and looks for anything else they could use when suddenly the radio starts playing a Mexican broadcast. Juan's friend listens to it and realizes this information could save their lives. Bringing it outside for the others to listen, a news report announces that both Mexico and Canada are opening their borders until the purges calm down, but there's one catch. The borders will be closing in 6 hours, and with no other option, they decide their only choice is to head to Mexico. That night, they drive to the border with only 3.5 hours left until it closes. The only people still awake are Juan and the cowboy, but the silence is interrupted when they see trouble in the rearview mirror. A group of Purgers on motorcycles start shooting at them, and it wakes up the others in a panic. Surrounding the vehicle, the Purgers demand they pull the truck over, but that's when the cowboy's sister sees the Purge flag they took and gets a clever idea. She holds it against the window to make them think they're on the same side, and luckily, the Purgers take the bait. The group is left alone and they continue on their way to the border, but things are about to get much more dangerous from here on out. Okay, this woman was smart to hold up the flag, but they honestly should have thought of this before leaving the motel. Now, as ridiculous as it sounds, this was a very common tactic used in the Revolutionary War, where colonists would take the uniforms of British soldiers and pose as messengers to pass through enemy territories. If we want to avoid being attacked for the entire trip, we need to use this concept and take it one step further. I would have tried painting the truck with the Forever Purge symbol and fly their flag from the back of the vehicle. We will draw much less attention to ourselves if we look like the enemy, and it will help us drive on the roads without being disturbed. I would even suggest that we dress to look like Purgers, so if there's any common outfit they're using like masks with bullets sewed into them, this would go a long way in helping us travel through the country. Now with that said, going to El Paso is still a terrible idea. El Paso is already the second busiest border in the United States, with over 12 million vehicles crossing each year, so it's going to be packed with citizens desperate to escape. A situation like that is guaranteed to attract Purgers because they know they'll find people to kill there, and it won't take long for it to turn into a complete disaster. The next problem is, even if you did manage to cross the border, once you're on the other side, you've entered the notorious city of Juarez, which has the second highest murder rate in the entire world. This city's under constant urban warfare fueled by rival drug gangs, and that's not the kind of refuge I would be looking for. Since going to the border is clearly a terrible idea, we should be looking at alternatives. Now, when every extra mile you drive puts you in more danger, picking the right destination could be a life or death decision. First of all, this truck here is a Western Star 5700 XE, which has a 150-gallon fuel tank and is actually one of the most efficient trucks of its kind, so they probably won't need to be stopping for gas. Right now, our best chance of surviving is to drive somewhere close to minimize risk, and the fewer people there are around you, the less likely you will be to encounter Purgers. If you rank all of the states by population density, you'll find that right near the bottom of the list is New Mexico, which borders Texas. It just so happens that 100 miles north of El Paso is a military base called White Sands Missile Range, which is the largest fully instrumented open-air missile range in the country. There's no way that the US government will let Purgers take thousands of missiles from the Department of Defense, so you can guarantee this place will be heavily fortified with military presence. In a low population density state with one of the most protected government facilities in the area, I would take my chances and try looking for refuge here instead of bum rushing to the border with thousands of desperate citizens lining up for Purgers to kill. The survivors finally reach El Paso with only 3 hours left until the borders close. But as they drive through the streets, they find it looks like a war zone. The city is burning, and the military has moved in with tanks, but there aren't enough men to retake control. The cowboy slowly drives through the city, and he turns the corner finding that the road to the border has been blocked. With the Mack truck taking too much damage, the group realizes they need to get out on foot if they want a chance of making it to Mexico in time. So the survivors leave the vehicle and start walking to the border. With guns raised, they quickly move through the streets, shooting down any purgers that get in their way, but the chaos is too dangerous. Spotting a movie theater, they rush towards it as fast as they can, but a tank rolling down the street fires at them. The explosion sends the men falling to the ground, but luckily they manage to survive. When Juan here gets back up, he walks over to the theater to check on his wife, but discovers that she's trapped inside with no way to break out. The group has to split up, and the men tell them they'll go around while the women look for another way to escape. Searching for an exit, they reach the back of the theater and walk outside to find themselves in an alley. Peeking around a corner, their husbands are nowhere in sight. But that's when Adela here notices a rose spray painted on the wall and realizes it has a secret meaning. Meanwhile, the men are advancing forward when they notice another rose. Juan tells the cowboy that this is a symbol that Mexicans leave to help each other find safety, and knows that Adela will also follow them. The only way they'll find their wives is to stay on the trail, but they never notice that someone is watching them from the shadows. Okay, like I said earlier, going to El Paso was a terrible idea. The Purgers have turned the city into a war zone, which makes this the most dangerous place to be. Now, I can't blame them for trying to flee the country, but there was one decision that was absolutely unforgivable. When Adela here got stuck behind this locked door, her husband acted like he couldn't do anything about it. Now, this man is either an idiot or a liar because he had a loaded M4 rifle in his hands, and all it would have taken was a burst of rounds to blow a hole in the door frame. Instead, he decided it wasn't worth trying, which officially makes this the worst breakup attempt I've ever seen. Now, you might be surprised that these Purgers are able to do so much damage even when they're up against the most powerful military force in the world. The Department of Defense's budget is over $700 billion, and they can spend it however they see fit. With that much power and resources at their disposal, it's pretty embarrassing that a network of Purgers have completely blindsided them. To be fair though, since the Forever Purge has only been active for 12 hours, you might be able to argue that there hasn't been much time to mobilize military troops across the country. There are roughly 2,400 border agents in the El Paso sector, but it covers 11 stations and the entire 268-mile borderline here. They can't all leave their stations to join the battle, but there are better ways for a government to deal with a situation like this, and they're called counterinsurgency tactics. First, separate the guerrillas from the population that supports it. Second, occupy strategic zones so the guerrillas can't travel easily. Third, coordinate actions over a wide enough area that the guerrillas can't access the populations that could support them. These simple rules have been used to fight uprisings throughout history, and they're extremely effective. With the Mexican and Canadian borders opening up to civilians, they're using what's called a drain the sea tactic. This is designed to relocate the civilian population and deprive the Purgers of support, cover, and resources. But 6 hours is not enough to get this done. Since there hasn't been very much time to mobilize troops, what they could have done to slow down the chaos is take out the internet and cell towers, as well as specific roads and bridges so the Purgers can't communicate with each other, or gather across the country to organize themselves. These strategies would strike a massive blow to their revolution, and it gives the military more time to mobilize troops and stabilize the chaos. The survivors follow the trail of roses, but as they're making their way through an alley, the group is stopped by a gang of Purgers. There's no escape, and the leader here orders them to drop their guns or else they'll be shot. With no other option, the group obeys and puts their weapons on the ground. Seeing the immigrants with them, the leader makes an offer to the cowboy. If he kills the Mexicans in his group, the man can live, but the cowboy rejects his offer, refusing to betray his friends, and this makes the leader's wife furious. She decides to persuade them the hard way and pulls out her gun, shooting TT in the stomach. He collapses to the ground, and the others can do nothing but watch him die. Suddenly, a squad of soldiers get into position behind them and order the Purgers to lay down their weapons. The gang starts firing at the soldiers and calls for backup, but when the leader's wife tries to shoot Juan, he wrestles with her and turns the gun back to avenge his dead friend. The survivors take their chances and run for their lives, leaving the Purgers in the alley as they wipe out the remaining soldiers. Seeing his dead wife on the ground, the leader is devastated, but swears revenge on the survivors and orders his men to hunt them down. Meanwhile, the two women are still following the trail of roses, and it leads them to a building in the middle of the city. Walking inside, they're led into a shelter full of other people hiding from the chaos, and Juan runs up to give her a hug, relieved that his wife is still alive. the whole group has finally reunited, but things are about to get much worse. A news report appears on the TV announcing that a military base in El Paso has been attacked and all the soldiers have been pulled out of the city. In response, Mexico has closed their borders, leaving everyone here stranded, but there's one last hope. This old woman tells one of the guards to find a man named Tiago, promising he's the only man who can help them get out alive. Okay. In a single night, the entire country has been taken over by an army of purgers, and while this is absolutely terrifying, we really can't be surprised. If all murder was legal for one day a year, like-minded people will band together and target their violence towards other groups that they hate. Violence can appear to be random, but hate never is. And statistically, the poorest people in urban America are overwhelmingly minority groups who won't have the money to defend themselves during the purge. Now, since this is such a predictable dynamic, the government should know that these purges are the perfect setup to allow hate groups to organize and develop deep networks of influence on Purge Day. What they didn't realize was that this exact dynamic has historically toppled governments and caused permanent shifts in power for the last 500 years. The truth is, the most impactful thing you can do during the purge is not to kill others, it's to acquire power. Leading historians believe that social networks have been the backbone of revolution before the internet even existed. When the Catholic Church dominated European culture, it was the network of Protestants that used the printing press to spread their ideas, and it changed the world. Now, if the government had been paying attention, they would have seen the signs that this would happen. If you look here, you'll see that there are symbols of this forever purge all over town, and it's even on the water tower that looms over the city. If they already have this much presence, you have to assume there's a lot of propaganda on social networking sites to help them spread this message. It's the perfect example to show us that the most successful wars are fought to gain the support of the population, not just control of territory. These symbols of the Forever Purge were the telltale signs that revolt was stirring, and if the government had seen these and addressed them earlier, they might have been able to prevent this from happening. Later, the survivors wait outside as a truck pulls into the alley, and the group point their guns, ready to take down any purgers, but then the old woman walks up to the vehicle. She begs this Native American man Tiago to take them to Mexico, and he agrees, allowing the survivors to get into his truck with no time to waste. Meanwhile, the purge leader gets a message over the radio telling him that a group of citizens are trying to cross the border through the Indian reservation. He realizes that the immigrant who killed his wife could be with them, and this is the perfect opportunity to get revenge. The next morning, Tiago's truck is driving through the desert as all the survivors are taken to a secret route to Mexico. Suddenly, the cowboy's wife gasps in pain, and they all realize that she's about to go into labor. The wife is nervous, but the older woman reassures her that she'll get help over the border. That's when the sister takes a look outside and spots dust clouds in the distance. The purgers have found them, and their leader is going to do whatever it takes to hunt them down. The truck arrives at an encampment where the other tribe members are waiting for them, and the survivors get out as they continue the journey on foot. The cowboy tells his wife she'll have to cross the border without him. Even though she wants him to go with her, he convinces the women to leave him behind. Together, they sit down onto the sled and are carried up this hill, leaving their friends to face the army of purgers. The survivors grab their weapon of choice and get into position, but as the purgers approach, all hell breaks loose. One of the tribesmen fires an explosive arrow and sends a truck flying through the air, killing the passengers inside. The survivors manage to take them down one by one, but there's too many, and the group begins to run out of ammo. As the purgers move closer, the survivors have no choice but to retreat, and as the gang sneak up to the encampment to finish the job, they discover their targets are already gone. Okay, these Native Americans are f***ing awesome. They had no reason to put their lives in danger to come save these people, and it was a very honorable decision. Now with that said, we need to leave these guys behind. Honor is no use to a dead man, and if there's a way across the border, then we should be on that ski lift before the fighting even begins. I'd rather be alive in Mexico than dead in America. This guy with the exploding arrows was doing a great job distracting the entire Purger army, and I would have suggested he stay behind to help everyone else get to safety. Now, if we had no choice but to fight, I would have tried things a little bit differently. I've obviously never been in a shootout before, but it's fair to assume that the high ground is going to give you the advantage here. You can see the entire Purge army, and it might be easier to kill them from this position, but there's one problem. This mountainside doesn't have enough cover to avoid enemy fire, and some of the weapons they're using aren't designed for long-range shooting. They would have better sight of their enemies, but their accuracy would still drop because of the long distance. If I were in this situation, I would have considered two alternative strategies with historical events to back them up. The first is to have everyone grab a vehicle and drive them out into battle. It might sound counterintuitive, but with one person driving and the other person shooting, it's actually much safer than being in a fixed position because a moving target is always harder to hit. This strategy was actually used to enormously great effect by the Chadian armed forces in the Great Toyota War of 1987. The name comes from the Toyota pickup trucks that the Chadian army used against the Libyans, and they managed to kill 7,500 enemy combatants, while they lost only 1,000. Now, this strategy might not work if these vehicles are too run down to be driving through the desert. They don't look like they're in great shape, but we can still use them to our advantage. Right now, it's way too easy for one of these purgers to sneak off to the side and flank the group from behind. So I would suggest we take all of these cars and move them into a circle for 360 degrees of protection. This strategy is very similar to the one used in the Johnson County War in 1893, where a posse of 200 ranchers had a standoff against cattle monopolies in the Wild West. It's uncertain exactly how much of the story is mythologized, but they barricaded themselves into a circle and built battering rams to attack the enemy, managing to last 3 full days. Either of these strategies would have been safer, but when you have this much plot armor, anything will work. The survivors run up the mountain to this abandoned house and take cover inside, but they've cornered themselves in and the gunmen are on their way. The Native American leader looks inside one of the rooms, finding these animal skulls hanging on the wall, and it gives the man a clever idea. Moments later, purgers start to enter the building and search for the survivors, but they get ambushed by the Native Americans who take them down easily. Suddenly, a motorbike breaks into the building and Juan here is pushed out of the way by his wife, but she gets hit and falls to the ground unconscious. The purger revs his engine and drives straight for the immigrant, but the cowboy manages to knock the rider off his bike. More purgers come inside the building armed to the teeth and attack the survivors. One of them drags Juan here to the motorcycle and is about to push his face into the spinning wheel, but that's when his wife wakes up. Seeing her husband is in trouble, Adela here reaches for a gun nearby and manages to shoot the purger right in the face. But suddenly, the leader comes crashing through the boards behind her and yanks her straight out of the window. He holds a knife to her throat, keeping the woman hostage, and orders Adela to call her husband for help. Instead, she yells in Spanish to kill the leader, and that's when this lasso comes flying in, looping itself around the man's neck. Working together, the men disarm him and pull him to the ground, where he can only stare helplessly at Juan, who takes out his gun and shoots him straight in the head. With all the purgers who were chasing them now dead, the group crosses over the border and enters a refugee camp where the cowboy reunites with his wife. She's given birth to their first child, and the Mexicans congratulate him on becoming a father. It's a happy ending for everyone except for 300 million Americans who are now stuck in a burning hellhole without internet.